We're good.
Yeah, I
Rescue.
It's 6 o'clock and I'll call the meeting to order. First on our agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay. Motion to approve the agenda. Okay, is there any objection? Okay, the agenda is approved by acclamation. The consent agenda, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda. I'll second that.
Okay, is there any objection? Hearing none, the consent agenda is. Okay. Mallory and Elijah, I think the two of you are up.
So first off, the end of the semester is just come upon us, and a lot of new classes like Intro to Policing, Future Planning, and are available this semester, and for the future it will only be available second semester. Additionally, a new grade, incomplete, is to extend deadlines and to not penalize kids when they have communicated with their teachers or have like problems in their family. So it's like to prevent them from failing a class when they have problems in their family or have communicated that they just aren't able to deal with stuff. Scholarship deadlines are approaching, with scholarships such as scholarships and many individual scholarships for seniors. Freshmen through juniors are forecasting and are working on planning their classes for the remainder of high school. And there's a newly added 48 hours of community service to graduate with honors, or with an honors diploma. After school tutoring on Monday and Wednesdays have continued, and many new clubs are meeting then too. And robotics is ending this month, and esports is starting next month. Class meetings have met every month and celebrate attendance, the students of the month, and address problems like our recent vandalism issues in our bathrooms, which have been really frustrating and have impacted the entire school because only 2 bathrooms have been open recently. One in Maine on the floors. And finally, February is the month of winter championships for sports, and we are first in the league in basketball. Wrestling has won the Civil War and is also near the top of our league. And swimming is doing well and has districts and state this month. Mallory will talk about the charity program.
All right, we had our Marshfield charity pageant yesterday at 12. Went really well. Didn't know I'm one of the coordinators, so I'm doing all the stuff behind the scenes, talking to Noah and the lighting. Went really smoothly, and all the contestants did extremely well. None of them choked. They all did amazing. And Ellen Button and Minia Apple Brigham won the pageant, and Jonah Martin and Allison Wright won most money raised. I believe it was $1,500. And the best talent was Cece Cox and Steele Carpenter. If you didn't know, Steele played the piano and Cece sang to a song from Mamma Mia, and then music stopped and They did dance to another song, Dancing Queen, and it was a very fun talent they had. And then the Congeniality Award went to Cece Cox and Miguel Aguirre for being the most congenial, which is voted on by, because you have to deal with all of them, which, because, but they're all really nice, and I was glad to be able to work with them along with my senior coordinators and the sophomore and junior coordinator. So it went really well and it was fun.
Valerie, how many kids participated?
There's 9 pairs, so there's 18 kids. And there's 5 coordinators, 2 senior coordinators, 2 junior coordinators, and 1 sophomore coordinator.
And how much did you raise
Me?
in total?
Oh, in total, I am not sure. To be technically completely finished yet, they have till the end of the year to do more personal fundraisers.
And remind me, what group does it go to? Is it the,
A lot of it's to ARC, which helps with homeless kids in our area getting what they need. We also do service hours there. We have to get a minimum of 50 hours, and that's to get a graduation cord, which they get. But yeah, so we work at ARC. I work there all summer, getting a lot of hours, and you just see things that you really don't see normally. Like, and you have to sign something that says you can't say anything because you'll see your classmates occasionally and you can't say obviously what they're going through. And it's just hard because I've never seen some of the things, and it makes it more real. Because you hear about it, but you don't really see it, especially in your own community. So it makes it more, like, it brings out the truth that from what you've been told.
makes it real, huh?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much. Okay. Cody, you're up.
So our watershed program has a couple of field trips coming up. One is to the Millicoma Marsh on this 21st for a cleanup of all the plastics that are buried. We have another field trip to the South Slough. Nope, not too sure about that one. We have a restoration project at Watson Creek and another trip planned to Goose History Museum to plant native species. We also have upcoming field trips for the whole school. One is to a local aquarium, as far as I know, and we have 2 that are going to be for nature science activities. We also have 3 graduates so far this year from destinations.
Kids who've already graduated.
Yep, and that will be all I have today.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions?
South Slough, when is that happening?
I have no date for that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Oh, thank you, guys.
Perfect. Becky, may I have you present the CBEA business?
Of course,
And,
yes.
Chair Hutchison, can I take one moment just to, I'm gonna cancel out of this meeting and go back into it?
Yes.
Because for whatever reason, it says the camera's working, but it's not.
Oh, no. He also has a slideshow, so. I think everybody says it right away, yes.
We're here to tell you to be serious and
Today's the day.
do well on that state test.
I think she was ready, too.
No, she said, I'm not ready.
Oh. Like they've never seen on TV people show up and tell them it's time for state test.
Yeah.
I'd be worried too, that'd be scary.
I mean, I think you're gonna be able to see shares.
Oh my gosh, yes. I love this.
Stressed.
Double.
It's here, it's registering.
I was going to take 5 as.
Was that a sixth grade?
Yeah.
Oh, in my class? Oh, really? I mean, was it
Just
she's
because.
special?
So it's connected to the camera.
She just saw some.
So random.
And her brain's-
Oh, that's right.
Oh, its eyes are flashing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Teacher Hannah,
Thank you.
that's funny.
Gotta stay warm
I haven't even
somehow.
thought about that for you.
I haven't been. Is this-
Did you take?
I didn't even take 7th grade. In 7th grade,
They should be right.
I had no clue what I was doing in there. They were just saying like, y equals mx plus b. I was like, what's that?
And yet you're 2 grades over.
Right now, but
Everything I can see says.
Abby says Tracy read. It has been yelled your night.
For those of you online, if you can hear us, we are working on the problem, or at least we're trying to.
We mean David.
David is, the rest of us are just hanging
Yeah.
out.
David is.
Yeah, I think we can probably just move along with the audio. They'll be able to see the slide deck.
They can see, or they can see the slides that are
They
presented.
should be able to see the slides
Okay.
because the camera should.
And they can hear.
They should be able to
I
hear.
would think.
Perfect.
I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
let me bring up your slide.
Becky, are we ready?
He's working on it, getting her slides up there.
Thank you, David. You're all calm and cool and
I know.
collected, which is very important
Thank you. Trying.
right now.
They can see the slides.
It's a boiling ocean inside.
So descriptive. I don't have a ton for you, but I definitely wanted you to see our spotlight of the month staff member, who is Erica Staley, and she was nominated. I asked Madison peers to come up with a nomination, another turn, and when Tracy came up with the name Erica Staley, I said, "Well, you're going to be there. You should come up and talk." She said, "I couldn't. I love her so much, I would cry." So I'm not going to cry because I don't have the pleasure of knowing Erica, but I look forward to getting to know her more one day. Erica took the job as Dean of Students at Madison, not really knowing what all it entailed. She works tirelessly to support students and staff daily. She's always looking for ways to make Madison better. Erica put in place staff shout-outs as a way for teachers to recognize each other for all of the wonderful things being done daily to help students and each other. She is the go-to person when dealing with tricky behaviors and has a lot of tools to help with regulation. She is always looking for ways to recognize students for their successes, no matter how big or small. So we appreciate Erica. And the only other thing I have left is to talk about our committee work. Currently, we have an elections chairperson working on gathering nominations for new officer reps. We're on a 2-year cycle, and so basically all of our officers and reps are up for new nominations. And so we'll be, those nominations come to our meeting on Wednesday, and then we'll be voting shortly after. So I'll look forward to sharing changes next month. I'll share with you, but they won't go into effect until next school year. As you know, our negotiations committee has been meeting weekly. We've gotten all settled in across the hall there. Michelle Barton, gave me the approval to get set up, just knowing that other people go in and out of there too. But we've made ourselves pretty comfortable. And you probably already know this, but we had come to the table together to start talking about norms and get started with negotiations. And we had a few changes on our team, and then with some more processing, I understand that your team also needed a little bit more time. So we took back our initial date of February 18th, and we are waiting for the next date. I think we're just gonna, last I spoke to Michelle Barton on this topic, we were just gonna start all over again, renegotiate our norms, come to the table, and get started. We look forward to the opportunity to bring our voices. We've been gathering input from members as in a variety of ways. It's always tricky, right? There's a bunch of them, and not all of them know what's in the contract and so on. But so I try to do so in a variety of ways, just like you with students. There's a survey out there that allows them to give input. We've had some ice cream social type events here where they're welcome to come in and talk to our team and look at the language that we have kind of summarized on the board and give us some input. I know Dr. Ainsworth's done a wonderful job since he's been here, making it very clear what his goals are for us, and along with aligned with the board goals. And changes have been coming pretty fast. So I don't even know necessarily what to expect, but I look forward to our opportunity to bring our voice to the table and let you know what's most important to us as we work on the front line with our students. So looking forward to a positive, successful bargain coming soon. And as always, we want to thank our organizing team. They bring us dinners, and we've had some great dinners already. So much appreciated. And any questions from you? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Becky. 3, would you like to
Yes.
talk to us about OSCA business?
Yeah, and I brought my accommodation since I still can't see that large screen without getting super close. Promise I am gonna go to the eye doctor sooner rather than later. Because it's getting worse. So I just want to start with some updates. We have a scholarship through our chapter that is funded by our members in local dues that go into a fund for us to give the children of classified staff, children and grandchildren, and the children in their homes. And so we have sent out that information, and that will be due on April 1st. So that way we can give out the awards at that scholarship ceremony. And then also the same as with CBEA is that we're getting ready going into negotiations, and we have our first meeting on Wednesday to kind of set those ground rules and to start moving forward and making that. And so it's super exciting to kind of getting into that process. A little bit scary for me since it's going to be my first one. So it should be an interesting process and a learning curve for me, but luckily I have a great team. Many of them have gone through it before, and so they're a great source of support. And then for our staff spotlight, since later on in the agenda we're talking about attendance, Chad Briscoe is our attendance advocate at the high school, and he was nominated by a fellow classified worker at MHS, and they said that they wanted to highlight him for his unwavering dedication and positive impact on our school community. Chad goes above and beyond to support students, fostering strong relationships with both students and parents to improve attendance and engagement. His genuine care for student success is evident in everything he does, and beyond his commitment to student support, Chad brings an uplifting energy to our campus. No matter the challenges, he always has a smile on his face and a positive attitude that inspires those around him. His approachability and enthusiasm make him a valued team member and a source of encouragement for students and staff alike. Thank you, Chad, for your outstanding dedication and for making a difference in the lives of our students every day. And I'm in the high school about once a week, and I have figured out who has the candy. And it's not just candy, it's like the good candy. When I was in there, 3 different students came in and had asked if he had like a treat for them. And he goes, yeah, of course, because they just needed like a little check-in. And so just seeing him interacting with those kids and knowing that they needed a break from the classroom and they chose to go to somebody's office instead of leaving campus was really great to see. And he gives me a huge ego boost because he always tells me how wonderful I am every time I see him. And that's just the attitude he has towards people. And so just wanted to take a moment and give him a time to shine tonight. And that's all I have if you guys don't have any questions.
I have seen him around the school a couple of times, and he always has a smile on his face.
Yes, yeah, he's a great positive person. He also helps out, I wish I knew fully, but I know he also helps out in maybe some of the policing classes. I don't know if you guys know, maybe you guys know the actual names of the classes and stuff, but he also assists with that and is always doing duties outside and stuff too. So he's a pretty busy guy. So
And where's his office?
So if you go in through the main hall and you turn this way, the attendance office doors is right here, and the staff office door that goes to the mailboxes is right here. His door is the next one.
What kind of candy?
After that, the good kind, like big jumbo bags of like the chocolate, and then there's also gummy candies for kids who don't like chocolate. Like, I was really impressed with the candy selection.
Right, yeah.
He's a keeper.
I know,
Yeah.
Not just for
Okay,
Can I add a little something?
yes, please.
So Chad Briscoe is an ex-police officer, and the classes he's teaching is Intro to Policing, and the kids love it. They do it second semester for the last few years, and the kids, that class is always full.
That's great. Thank you. And Jennifer, if you're still on, I did notice you making a comment about the first person who was recognized by Becky. I did see you that pop up on the screen, so. Okay. Dr. Ainsworth.
All right, as we're transitioning, I will echo what Becky said about Erica at Madison. She's really good. She's outstanding. Working as the dean and working with some of our kids who sometimes they have a bad day and there's a little behavior moment, and she's got the magic touch. I've seen her action a couple times. And then just would echo what Bree said about Briscoe. He's outstanding, lots of energy, former police officer in Dallas, Texas. When you talk to him, I see him and I'll complain about the rain every once in a while, and he actually likes the rain.
Yeah, I bet he did.
He enjoys it if it rains. So we're halfway through the year, so my mid-year report is fairly robust. There's several things we need to go over in terms of mid-year outcomes, student learning, data, district office, move in terms of a building, negotiations, lots of things to cover here. So there's the agenda, mid-year review, lots to cover. I bring this up just to kind of frame where we're going and kind of anchor us in our process. So we're going to get into some detail, but the things that we're trying to do, and I want to make this point, they're aligned to best practices. They're aligned to research. So I'm saying this, we're not just making things up. We're doing things that high-performing school districts do across the country. So a piece that I've looked at with other colleagues in districts is Fullen's work on coherence, and he lays it out. These are the 8 things. I won't go in detail over these 8, but these, in his research, these are the 8 characteristics of high-performing school districts. If you look at these 8 things, these are things that we're trying to do as a culture, as an organization. And I would say in some of these areas we're stronger than others. I think we're developing in some of these characteristics, but I don't think we're absent in any of these things. When I look at focus and vision, I think we have a strong vision. I think we have We have goals as a district. Now the goal is to be consistent and disciplined in those goals. We're using data. We use data all the time. On every meeting we have, we're using data. Now can we use data to improve student learning? We're collaborative. We have PLCs every Friday. We have MTSS meetings. We have DILT, and there's a lot of acronyms here, and BILT meetings and PLC meetings and MTSS meetings. We meet as administrators every Friday in a short meeting, and then every other Wednesday in a longer 2-hour meeting to collaborate and problem solve. Number 4 is being strategic. Marina, I still can't get her to find any money trees, but to use our resources wisely, and those resources should be aligned with where we're going as a district, trying to minimize distractions, which I think we do a great job of. Community and parental involvement. I think some of our schools are better than others. I think that's an area we can get a little bit better as a district. I think we have a positive culture and just the moral imperative. We're here for kids. It's real simple. They're our number 1 stakeholders. Teachers are super important. Teachers are probably the second most important stakeholders in the district, but kids are number 1. And I think our teachers believe that, our administrators believe that, and definitely our school board. So again, just to kind of keep this front and center, aspirational for us to know all kids by name, strength, and needs. I always stop on the needs piece. They all have strengths, but we need to make sure we know their needs, and they all graduate with a plan, enrolled, employed, or enlisted. My goals, our goals. And then we'll transition. So calendar is one of the agenda topics. So we are at a position now where we would like to present a calendar to the board so the board can ratify the calendar. I'm going to give some credit to Michelle Barton, our HR director. She went through a process with our staff and some feedback. I did establish some goals during the calendar process. When I looked at the previous calendar, I thought there were some things that were off. There were some things that didn't make sense to me in terms of student learning and families. And I'll say this, in terms of these goals, you guys have been doing this long enough. The calendar cannot be everything to everyone. That's a futile exercise. There's no way we can meet every adult's needs through the calendar. So I have to make a decision. I'm going to err on the side of kids, and I'm going to err on the side of families. So I think we were able to strike that with some efficiencies. We talked about maximizing instructional time. I think we have to remember we're still coming off COVID. We are closing gaps. We still have extreme gaps. So more time is better than less time in school. Prioritizing learning breaks for staff, that's important. Teaching is not something you can do 365 days a year, right? You need some strategic breaks, predictability for parents and families, and then ensures professional time and collaboration for teachers and staff. I actually like the model where we do micro professional development at an hour and a half, 2 hours at a time versus all day professional development. We can talk about that later, but I'm not a big fan of all day professional development. I like it smaller chunks. So these are the goals. These are the days per quarter. You'll notice that it's a little heavy on the front end. That's intentional. The start of the school year, you have a lot of management, instructional, logistic things you have to get out. Establish that you don't have to do during the second semester or throughout the school year. So it is a little bit imbalanced, but I think that imbalance is okay. 173 instructional days. I wish there were more. We have a short instructional year on the state of Oregon. I think we have one of the shortest in the country. And then 190 contract days. So here's the calendar. You have it in your board packet. I know that's hard to read. One of the things that I'm excited about is we were taking early release on Thursdays and we didn't have Fridays off, and we had Fridays off. And to me, if we're gonna have a Friday off, then we need to maximize Thursday. Kids need to be in school. Another thing we shifted on, and this isn't super popular, but I'll take the hits on it. I was not a big fan of taking Thanksgiving completely off for our children. We have a lot of kids, they don't travel during Thanksgiving. They need to be here. Another week off for them creates challenges. Yeah.
So our families who still want to take it off, they can take it off, but we'll go to school that week, Monday and Tuesday, and then we'll have the rest of the week off in terms of Thanksgiving. And I'll stop here for questions at the end.
So we'll transition now to Blossom Gulch, District Office move. Kim, Member Brick?
Did you say that we would be taking Fridays off and then early release on Thursdays?
No, the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so, yeah, if we have a Friday off, Thursday's a full day of school. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about the calendar before I move into Blossom Gulch? Okay, so one of the things when I first got here, one of the things I kept hearing was district office, district office, district office, where's it gonna be? And at that point, I couldn't make a decision because I didn't have good information, to be honest with you. I needed to talk to a lot of people, get feedback, pros and cons, go through analysis, lots of conversations, especially with this lady here, because number one was the fiscal impact of that move. So you guys have a report, kind of a project management outline of what that looks like. We have made a decision, and our goal will be, we will move the district office from the current location to this building. We've started some of that transition already. I think some of the pros of that, you guys have tasked us and my team to expand alternative education. Unless the community is ready for another bond, which I don't think they are, and I don't think that would be fair to ask them to build another building, I think we need to use our resources. And we have this building that is currently underutilized, and we have our current Milner Crest site, which is packed, right? And we have 2 programs up there. We have the district office up there. It's a great location. But in terms of utilizing resources, it makes more sense to bring adults down here and to have open that building up and maximize and expand destinations, expand Little Pirates, expand our online program, and if we could be creative. I have other ideas. I don't think we can all pull them off right now. But the footprint is up there. The space is there to expand alternative education. Politically, it does not make sense for me to put students in this building. Adults, we can run out the back door, we can get up the hill in a tsunami. So we will start that process in terms of the move this spring. There are cons. There's the logistical piece. There's the financial piece. Marina's done a great job in terms of encumbering money and saving and using capital projects. We think we can pull it off. Then there's just that building at Milner Crest has been the district office for a long time. Not everybody is super supportive of the move. They all get it, but there's some sentiment to that building, and it's a great spot. So phased approach, the way that we look at it is phase 1 will be to start remodeling this building front facing. And in the south, our vision is this side of the building, this hallway is where district office personnel will be. So we'll start here south in the front. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is to relocate district office staff this summer, maybe even a little bit this spring, depending on how the project goes. Phase 3 is starting to look at additional programs. What can we do? And then remodel the north side of the building. That might be next summer. And then phase 4 is the fun part, is the innovative part, is the creative part. What other programs can we add for students and families? This is in your packet in more detail. So this is the timeline. The needs assessment really has been going on, I would say, for several years prior to my arrival. But I think we're at a position now where we can make a decision. And a lot of it stems from your goal to expand alternative education. We need space. Any questions on the district office move before I get to Globes?
Yeah, why don't you go?
Just a question. I was on the board after a lot of the bond measure, but I know that there was a lot of messaging about this particular building and its shape. And I was wondering about it sinking is one thing, I think, is what I've heard, is that it's the foundation would be abyss. And then I think electrical also was a concern. I assume that's in the report or been looked at a little bit. I assume those things are present, but believe they can be managed to some degree for some period of time. Is that?
Yeah, you want to answer that?
Yeah. So yes, that was all discussed. We have spoken with Joe Slack, the engineer. HGE has been heavily involved in our projects. We worked with him last 2 falls ago on this exact same discussion. What's the district office gonna do and what are we gonna do about them? According to him, there was some incorrect language used at the time of the bond where it was expressed this building is not safe. This building is safe. It is sturdy. Obviously, there has been some settling as the ground's a little wonky, but it is safe architecturally and logistically sound. He came in, he gave us a pretty hefty quote for what a renovation would cost. That was a full renovation, including all of our HVAC units. He felt comfortable putting a good chunk of money into this building. We are not going to put that chunk of money into the building, but he did recommend that we utilize our space that's available. In terms of electrical, we had Kyle Electric come out on Thursday of this last week and give us a rough quote for what it would be to update this whole hallway in case we needed some extra wires and circuits. They thought maybe we need to put a circuit in, which is crazy to me. But it turns out we actually have an overabundance of circuitry on this hallway. They just have overwired them. So we have like at this point 5 wires that are going to one light switch that back in the day probably did take 5 wires. Now it takes like 1. And so according to Ty Bennell, we have more than enough electricity and it is in great condition and he'll be able to run some extra wiring. So I can have my copiers wherever I want them in the business office. And so we can all spread out in this south hallway for a relatively low cost.
So you could have a coffee pot on and the copier
And
at
a
the same
He
time.
said if I'm lucky, I might even get a little heater underneath the desk. Yay, as long as I turn it off. So yes, those are things that were discussed and considered. It is a worthwhile cost to invest now rather than let 60,000 square feet sit unused. And what I kept saying is if we had kids in here for the last 4 years, the business office and the district office can utilize the space just fine. Thank you.
Adrian, did you have any questions? Kevin? Martin? Kim? I do. The one thing missing from this, I'm sure you can guess what it is. There's no dollar figure in here anywhere.
Yeah. You may speak to that as well.
Yes,
Okay, so we are working on it and there is a multitude of ongoing targets that we're trying to hit. We do have a rough budget that I've come up with theoretically, that you'll see in next month's supplemental budget that I'll be presenting. We are working with the maintenance department to get individual quotes per classroom, per project, and then we can kind of pick and choose. What we've decided our priorities are carpet to match this room, paint to match these rooms, the wiring to run enough copiers and things, and then potentially some upgraded lighting, but we're not investing a significant amount of money. We are getting individual quotes for each office so that we can say we have enough money to do X number of classrooms. We're not looking to add any walls, new construction. We're just looking to utilize the space. And if some of us have ugly offices in the meantime, we can only afford to update 10 of them, then we'll do that.
How many offices are currently being used over at Bowman Crest? How many personnel are we looking at moving?
Well, most district office personnel will come over here, except Destinations Little Pirates. We'll probably leave some tech capacity there because the server's there. And to move the server is significant in terms of cost, $30,000-$40,000. So we might leave that there. And then they have, the satellite office. But most outside Destinations Little Pirates, most district office staff will come in here. Yeah.
So that would be curriculum, some tech, special programs, the business office, HR, and the superintendent and David. It's about 6 classrooms, 7 classrooms currently.
Do I recall that there's something run through this school in particular for the district? Is that
The data.
the data? Okay,
Mhm.
that's what I thought.
It's all.
It's all here.
Yeah, it's a big brain, I think.
That's is that what it is?
David, are you the one that's dragging your feet about Lucas come over there?
No. Yeah.
And, I could have talked about this, but one of the benefits is this building is left empty quite often. There are some people in and out, but to have people here and working and activity in life, I think it will be good for this area. It's gonna create a little bit of disruption here in the parking lot. There's gonna be more people, but I think it'll enhance the parking
Over there,
Yeah.
which is a problem, has been a problem.
Yeah.
Especially it.
And then just, I've talked to the staff, this needs to look like a district office, that needs to look like a school. And right now, that looks like a district office. So I want parents and students to come into that building and feel like it's a school. So we want to have labs and classrooms and furniture for students and flex space. It needs to be a school. And we need to position ourselves, you heard me say this, with the port project potentially coming online in the next couple of years. And I'm always going to root for our friends at North Bend. They're in our community. I want them to do well, but we need to remain competitive and position ourselves when these people show up. Parents often pick schools because of programs and outcomes, and then they want their kids to feel safe. So it's important that we have those offerings for our community. All right, so GLOWs, lots of positive things happening in our district. I hate to talk about every school and talk about all the good things that are happening in terms of student learning. Little Pirates, 72 students, and there's a wait list. 34 parents want to get into Little Pirates. So how do we expand that? 92% attendance at Little Pirates. Parents are doing a great job getting their little ones to school. If you've ever been in one of those classrooms, it's amazing. They're talking about colors. They're talking about feelings. What is it? Sad, happy, angry, mad, great SEL lessons. If you just want to make your day better, start the morning Little Pirates. They're doing a great job. Lots of GLOWs there. Madison, 38% of the students mid-year are well above average growth in their composite reading scores. So that needle is moving. 92% of the students have fewer than one behavior referral at Madison. And that goes back to our dean and Erica Staley and the work that she's doing. 44% increase the number of students decoding at or above benchmark. So we're seeing return on investment in terms of the science of reading. Madison GLOWs, I know this is really hard to read, but that staff should be really proud of this. That's longitudinal data over the last 3 years. If you just simple terms, if you look at the red, every year the red gets smaller, smaller, and smaller at Madison. That's important, right? The work they are doing is paying off. Madison Eastside. So if you look at the beginning of the year and the middle of the year, look all the way to the left, in both schools, the red gets smaller. So the kids come in at a certain percentage, and that percentage is smaller mid-year at both K2s. East side, 62% of the kindergartners are at or above ELA proficiency. That is up from 28%. That's significant. 50% of the school is proficient at their grade level in math. It's the beginning of the year was 27. So it's, again, significant growth. And then we all know that East Side was recognized by the Oregon Department of Education for their science of reading work, which is awesome. Millicoma, lots of really good work happening in Millicoma in terms of math and reading. Third grade math, 16% increase in students above grade level. Fourth grade, 22% increase in students above grade level in math. And then third grade, 64% to 85% in reading accuracy increase. Millicoma third grade math GLOWs. Again, look at the red on the left. Look how much smaller the red is on the right in terms of third grade math GLOWs. There are lots of kiddos getting to grade level math in third and fourth grade at Millicoma. Sunset, third grade reading, 52% meeting to 86% benchmark. Third grade reading accuracy, 46 to 68. Reading comprehension, 54% to 80%. And all grade levels are meeting their math minutes at Sunset. So lots of GLOWs, heading in the right direction. Marshfield Junior High, 66 students received high school credit at Marshfield Junior High. They're expecting 87 students to receive high school credit this semester. So we are blurring the lines between middle school and high school. Those kids who are ready for high school math, ready for high school science, we are allowing those kids to go over. Some of those kids are taking CT courses over at the high school, which is awesome. 300 students are registered for athletics at the junior high. There's 400. That's 3/4, 75% of the students. Mr. Montiel and his team do a great job. If we could do a study, there's a huge correlation. You get kids involved, they pass classes. You get kids involved, they graduate. Right? You're doing a great job. 90% pass rate. Right? So our goal is to get to 10. I think they're actually at 91% pass rate. Marshfield Junior middle of the year math growth. Meets or exceeds that first data point. At the beginning of the year, only 15% of the students were meeting their math benchmark. Now it's 28. 22 at the beginning of the year, we're approaching. Now it's 32. That big red bar, beginning of the year, 64% were not meeting math grade level standards. Now it's only 41%. We're halfway through the year.
Can you
Yes.
explain again, when you do the one where they come in at the beginning of the year?
Yep.
You're still testing on what you expect them to know by the end of the year?
In math, yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Yep, with Savas, our new curriculum. Yep. So excited to see what this looks like at the end of the year. Marshfield High, Marshfield Junior High, I already mentioned this. We are below, or we're right at the 10% threshold for secondary schools and failure rates. The 10th grade is a concern, it's 13%. It's interesting, our bookends in the high school, 9th grade is usually a grade that you worry about in terms of passing. Really, really important that kids pass classes in 9th grade because the rate of graduation goes up really high when they pass classes. We have to figure out the 10th grade at Marshfield Junior High. I also think we don't have enough time for this. We're gonna talk about in a data meeting. There are special populations and there are ethnic groups that are not passing a high enough rate in our secondary schools. We have to figure that out. Something's amiss. I'm not trying to blame anybody, but we have to figure out, is it a system problem? Is it a culture problem? Is it a grading practice problem? Is it an assessment issue? Is it a homework? What is causing some of the disparity and disproportionality with our failure rate with those groups of students? Destinations, 43 students earned a total of 118 credits. 2.75 credits per student. This was already mentioned. 3 students have completed all their credits. The wait list is growing. I don't know what it is, but it's growing. More students want into destinations that we can actually staff. That's a good problem to have. And I would just say this, I know this is anecdotal, but the collective teacher advocacy at destinations is really high. Really, really high. Those teachers believe that students can graduate and learn at a high level. I think she's here, I'll embarrass her, but I think it's a reflection of Kayla's leadership, right? They have high expectations for those kids and they love those kids. Online continues to grow. 85% pass rate, and the average grade is 86%. Resource Link, 87% of students are meeting their credit goals, and this is an interesting data point. Their culinary program is growing, Resource Link. They had 0 students, they had 6 students, and now they have 9 students. And they're taking the students out into the community. I think they've worked with restaurants, Restaurant O. He's actually had them come in and make some dishes, which is really cool. Get some pictures. And then just good things. Sprint goals, this is Madison. This is what Principal Ed shares with their staff weekly. They're tracking attendance and math. So this goes out to their group. You can see the attendance is on top, math is at the bottom. This is East Side. Same thing. I'll share our sprint goals at our next meeting. Here is Madison and East Side, little PLC collaboration 2 weeks ago together. That's one of the benefits to PLCs, even get people together. Get schools together, grade levels together, departments, vertical, horizontal, talk about student learning, right? Talk about what do you what are you doing? And they were able to get together and look, Anita Archer and Science of Reading. This was mentioned by Ed. I don't know how many of you were there on Sunday. They raised, I think it was $16,500. They're gonna go to the Ark. I asked the principal, Mr. Ashton, what was the record? I think he said it was $25,000 that was raised in 2015. Program started. Remember Roblin? I think it was your tenure at Marshfield, late 90s?
Yeah, oh yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And it was, we all did Sacred Heart, neonatal unit,
Yeah.
like North Penn still does. But, Les Engel and working with it decided local communities need stuff. We shouldn't send all of our money to Eugene all the time. We have kids that need things. So they changed the whole thing towards the end of my career. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden started doing this thing with the charity program.
Yeah. The winner was Button, and I was watching her. For those of you who were there, when one of her skits, she was running down she was running around the auditorium. She's a pretty important basketball player for us, so I didn't want her to trip and fall. Don't fall. But she did a great job. All these scholars did an outstanding job to make her community proud. And last thing for good things is we have been really enjoy our partnership with the city of Coos Bay Fire, Coos Bay Police in terms of the evacuation protocols and after action reviews. So we held a community meeting in Marshfield. We didn't have a lot of people show up, but they had great questions and they were engaged. David found a tool, so we have a podcast. If you get a chance, listen to our new podcast. And we plan on going out to Sunset. And then we probably are going to do a community event with the fire department, Coos Bay City, and the police online, just so we can get more people and go through everything. So with that said, before we jump into negotiations, conversation, any questions?
Any questions?
I don't have any either.
Kevin? Adrian? Dave?
I just want to say, is there a date for the going out to Sunset? They were asking if there's a date for the engagement.
No, we're going to meet tomorrow and identify a date here with the other groups. We're hoping here by the end of the month. Yeah.
And is this also aimed at trying to revise our plans around this as well? Is that going sort of hand in hand with these meetings?
Yeah. Part of it is informational, right? To make sure everybody understands, that the map is really important.
Right.
And then to really talk about what we're going to change.
Yeah.
And we're still working through our emergency operating procedures. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know some of the schools and individual of the schools are wanting to know what impact it's going to have on them. If we're not doing this, then what are we going to be doing?
Yeah.
So
it's really important to have the experts, the fire department, police department, for them to say, you're probably safe where you're at.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, it's all science-based and topographical, and like, if it's what do they call it? A short tsunami, a long distance tsunami?
Near.
The near tsunami is different than the long distance tsunami. Really long distance tsunami, you're safe in your school. So. Right, if there's no questions, yes.
I have a question. Okay, I'm gonna go back to something Mallory said when she was here. What's the issue with the bathrooms at the high school?
Yeah, I don't have all the information. From what I know, there's been some vandalism. There's been some vandalism. Yeah,
not just
vandalism and vaping. And I believe that the administration has tried to allow it to self-correct, right? And work with kids, and they got to a point where it was significant enough. They just said we have to shut it down, right? I don't know what the timeline is to open it back up, but it's not uncommon for a school. They have a vaping issue. If they have they start to shut some bathrooms down. They're not in a staffing capacity where they can be in every single bathroom, right? So hopefully that changes and we can open all the bathrooms up.
Okay, so this isn't really like a damage, we're gonna have to repair lots of bathrooms.
No, I don't think
Okay.
so. Yeah.
Okay. And the program at Destinations seems to work really well. It motivates kids and everything. what is it that's so different about the program at Destinations that it can't be, at least parts of it, replicated in a regular classroom?
And that's a good question. Answer. Here's what I would say. I don't know if you want to wait.
You don't have to put it on tonight,
Yeah.
but just I'd be interested in why successful programs can't then be replicated so that we're getting that same sort of success in other classrooms.
Yeah, I would say a couple things. This would be a great coffee conversation. One, small class sizes, really small, and some kids need them, right? Two, it's important for us to have choices. Some kids want the traditional comprehensive high school experience, right? They want the big school, the sports, the activities, the dances, all those things that come with a comprehensive high school. That works for a lot of kids. It doesn't work for all kids, right? In Destinations, that environment is smaller, fewer distractions, right? And that doesn't work for everybody. So I think it's important to have both. I don't know if we'd want to replicate it at Marshfield because I think it would take away from what they're trying to accomplish. But I think we need more slots. Member Robler.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna say, maybe Cody can say, why is it much better if he wants to? Anything to say?
Yes, one way into
I
that.
will tell you that from a perspective of watching it work over time, when kids have a choice on how much time they want to spend in a particular subject and how long they want to stay with it, and the bell is not telling them when they have to move, but they are telling themselves when they are ready to go to the next thing, is a real big thing to a whole lot of kids.
Okay.
So I can work on that all day for today and then not have to worry about it tomorrow because I can work on something else. But having control over that for a lot of kids in the old days, at least, I don't know if that's still the truth, but that used to be a really big thing for a lot of those kids. And then knowing that if I do X, Y, Z, I will earn my credit. As opposed to, I've got to be in a class for a whole semester. And at the end of the semester, if I've done the right things, I will get a credit. There, they have goals that they can set for themselves to earn credits, which is very different.
And
Oh,
it's
I
very-
like that.
Yeah, it's very flexible.
Like Evergreen College.
They're clearly more like Evergreen College.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a plus.
Oh, okay, but yeah, it's great if you have that flexibility and some kids, they've got the studies about, teenagers and sleep and, starting classes so early. And I don't know, Cody, if you're a morning person, you like being at school at like 7 a.m. or whatnot. But, for some kids, that's not really a lifestyle choice. They might have a job that they have to work late or parents don't get home till late or they're policing themselves. So they get to go to school, maybe it's at 10 a.m. works better. And then if you can focus in on that work, I completed my high school degree in 2.5 weeks. I was way above in credits, but I went there and I was like, I can do this. And I just buckled down. It's 24 hours a day and hardly any sleep, but you can do it.
Yeah.
It's very empowering. That's what you want to do.
The other part that was always important was the way in which teachers, or in their cases, mentors or whatever, interact with kids in different from a classroom with 30 kids and a teacher standing in front of them. That makes a difference. For
It
kids.
does.
It makes a difference for both the teacher and the student with respect to the interactions that take place. So those are the things that were happening.
And for some kids, it's a work situation, right? They need that flexibility. And what I think Kayla and her team have done a great job of, it's not just credit recovery, credit triage.
Yeah.
There's certainly kids there for that, right? But there's some kids, they're not in a credit deficit at all. They just, everything
Learn
that
differently.
you guys just said, that's what they want, right? Smaller, more relational. So
I'll also say that I want to give credit to Kayla and the people who've been there. Having studied programs like this around the country for a long time, the staff has a really big impact on the culture of the school. And there are places that have gone totally awry because the kids' culture takes over the teachers' culture. And the programs fall apart. And it takes strong leadership to make sure that the kids have expectations and the teachers hold them to that and that they don't fall into that kind of thing. And that's been true for the program for a long time.
Thank you.
I just want to say too, that I have no idea how you got a new job. So, I mean, and that's like a full-time plus job. So, I mean, I don't even know because now I feel like that's a lot for her. And then you got a teacher out at
That doesn't matter.
special at TOSA too for destination. So I feel like it's like full-time.
She's not pushing forensics.
That's helpful. Than I thought.
I know you can't duplicate like the time.
My entire
There's
staff,
gotta
it's not
be
just
some
about
way.
teachers, but
There's
every
something
single member of my
intrinsic.
staff. We have an agreement and an understanding of how we talk to students and how we treat them. And they're all individuals and they all have their own plan, even the kids know. Like if they see something that they don't think is fair, we say, that's not on your plan, but it may be on theirs. Everybody has their own plan. And so we are lucky enough to have a small group of students that we can invest all of that time and energy into. Unlike comprehensive high schools where they have, 800 students, that the teachers do as much as possible for all of their kids, but they just don't have the amount of time that we do because we only have, a ratio of 1 to 10. So that's a huge difference. And we are really just pretty lucky with the group of kids we have. Like,
That makes it.
honestly, like they are hard workers. They want to graduate early, or if they don't want to graduate early, they're taking college credits and making a plan. Cody's sitting over there, and he's a 10th grader, and he will be pretty much done with his credits at the end of this year, but he stayed with us, of course.
Hey.
But, they get to work at the pace that they need to work at. And so that is really hard to replicate at Marshfield. I've been there, like I spent 13 years at Marshfield, and they're doing amazing things there for their kids as well.
I know, it isn't so much, like I was saying, it isn't so much replicating the time, or the small classrooms. There's gotta be something intrinsic though in what you're doing that can be passed along.
There's a lot of research that has gone into every decision that we've made over the last 2.5 years. So
Yeah.
I welcome any of you guys to come and visit and see what we're doing.
I think it would be good the next meeting, maybe have do a destinations report for us.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Thank you.
She's like, I don't have enough to do already. I think she doesn't.
But she's already here, so.
She already gave one just now.
So the
Okay.
next, as I wrap up, we'll switch from student achievement, learning, outcomes, the most important thing. But let's shift to management a little bit. So when I came on board this summer, I was asked by several board members my experience with negotiations and the structure. And then I started to learn about our structure. I don't think necessarily our structure was wrong. I don't think anybody was trying to do anything wrong or nefarious, but it's not a structure that I think is best practice. So you guys asked me to look at a different structure, so I started that process. I think it's time it's really to have a public conversation about what does negotiations look like moving forward. And so some of my thoughts are using a firm to help facilitate. I'm going to say that word several times. Facilitate, facilitate, facilitate. They're not there to direct or control. They're there to facilitate the process. The board and administration, it's our job to establish the direction of negotiations, right? Our floor, our ceiling, our guardrails. But this is a group of people who've done this. This is what they do, right? And the process it does take someone who's an expert in it. There is a lot of nuance in it. I don't think it's fair to lay people into that role. So I think there's a sustainability component. I know that Adrian's done it for a long time. This is exactly why I think we have to move in a direction. Adrian might leave us. So that internal expertise is gone, right? Board members come and go. It's more sustainable to have a group, understands the process. It also is more neutral. It's more objective. We live in a small town. There are lots on this group right here. There are lots of friends and there are lots of family members, right, amongst all of us. So I think it's really important from a professional standpoint for it to be objective and neutral. I think it's also more efficient and seamless. Last 2 points I want to make is, before we open it up, is it's not, I could have Marina do it and she could do it, and she would do a great job. And I could have Michelle do it, and Michelle would do a great job, and they would pour their heart and soul into the process. We are not a big school district. Marina doesn't have a staff of 5 people beneath her. Michelle and Marina don't have a huge staff. So in terms of capacity and resources and time, it's not fair for us to task those 2 departments to facilitate that process. In my old district, she had a team of 10 people. She could dedicate herself because things could be delegated. So we don't have the resources and capacity. It would strain our workflow. It would put some things to a stop. So, and then it's just best practice in a lot of industries to have a facilitator, not someone directing, but to facilitate the process. So through the chair, open it up. But that's my 2 cents.
Questions?
Well, I have a
Or
comment.
discussion? Yeah, please.
I mean,
We're gonna start with you. We're
I mean,
gonna go this way.
I was one of the ones that said, well, we can do it differently. I know when I got on the board and I got delegated to one of the negotiating committees right off the bat. And it's a complicated process. It's not straightforward. There are many turns, and, you know, unless you do it for a living, to be thrown into that role is, I always felt like, am I really the best, if I was to do this, am I really in the best position to do this? And I know in my work, I wouldn't hire me to do this. I would hire somebody that does this for a living. And then I would sit back in my role as a board member, making decisions about what is in the best interest and voting the way that, and working behind the scenes. But I was very much one who said, we should look at another way of doing this that makes more sense. I mean, you know, maybe I think at one point the board had a lawyer on the board who maybe did this for a living. So you're like, all right, well, that's kind of a no-brainer. But if you don't have that, and I think too, you know, when we were trying to figure out people on committees, the negotiation committees, both of them were the real struggle for the board members, because we know, those are vendors, we know how much work it involves, we know how emotionally difficult it can be at times, and it's a lot. I think for a board member to be in that position and feel like they can do the job that's necessary to do in that position. So I'm very much in favor of moving in this direction.
Adrian?
You know, I basically agree with that. I've been sort of the spokesperson for negotiations of classified. I've been the spokesperson for negotiations of certified. And I mean, it's not just stressful, but it strains the good relationships that we have with some of our staff members. You know, I volunteer in a fair number of classrooms, and you know, you get these relationships with the teachers and the EAs, and then you're sitting across the table from them in negotiations, and things don't always go so well, you know, and emotions and tempers can run high, and it has a real effect on those relationships, you know, whether you want it to or not. And I know me personally, I'm good at compartmentalizing those, so I can be upset with some person here at the negotiating table and then see them, you know, next week in the grocery store and fine, let's, you know, be friends and have our chat and whatnot, but not everybody can do that. And I remember in previous negotiations, like we've had representatives from OSBA come and either be at the negotiating table with us or be in the back room when we caucus to help give us advice. And Let us know things that we don't necessarily know as board members, you know. These are things that have to go on during these processes. You know, the law states that if you do this, you can't do this, and vice versa. And as a board member, I mean, you don't know about this. You need that kind of help and support and advice. Otherwise, you do run the risk of doing or saying something that in the long run is going to hurt the district or something that you can't take back. And it helps avoid a lot of those pitfalls. So I think in that aspect, it would be very useful. I know I'm not a lawyer. And every time we're at the negotiating table, I'm just shaking inside because I don't want to do or say something that's gonna cause damage to the district. It's gonna hurt, you know, our staff and any relationships I might have with our staff members.
Kevin,
So if they facilitated, the committee members are still there, the board members are still there? Is that what you're saying, or not? In
Well, that would, that's your
That's a
guys',
decision.
that's your decision. I've seen it both ways, where you guys select certain board members to participate, they're there. That creates some transparency. I've also seen it where the board members are behind the scenes and they want to be updated, right? So there's a back and forth. I think that's really your guys' call on how you want that to go.
Yeah, because I'm looking forward to it, believe it or not. So if that's an option.
just sit there.
Good for you.
Now, and are we looking at this as an option for both negotiations? Or just teacher negotiations?
Right now,
or what?
teachers, yeah.
Can I speak to that as the reason? The reason is typically contract years would be offset. So they would not typically both fall in the same calendar year or budget year. So moving after last contract negotiations, which was the last EA agreement, we made a decision to put in the budget enough to negotiate with an attorney or a facilitator for one chunk. And because we already had done that for CBEA, but I only budgeted for one group, we decided we thought it would be best to phase it in and then continue that budget amount for ongoing years, because theoretically then they would be offset. So I would never need to budget for both fees in 1 year.
Okay,
This is an unfortunate
overlap.
overlap.
Arnie,
So how do we get to the point where we're all on the same one?
Yeah.
Well,
They switched from a 3-year to a 2-year,
Oh, that's
and
right.
so the way that just the 3s and the 2s fell and.
they will fall again at the same time.
Right, it will.
Unless we do something different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, if they used to be out for the 3 years, and then I think the CBA one got changed every 2 years at their request, and then I put them at a place where we are this year, we're two.
It just depends on the length of the negotiating
So
contract.
we might have to budget for 2.
We may, or that may be something where we have alternating years for each group
we
or.
use it for one group, 1 year.
I just think if we're saying it's continuity,
Well, actually, we won't have to budget that because one's every 2 years, one's every 3 years, so we'll have
Yeah.
less than
Well,
one.
1 year.
Well,
and
less than one per each year.
I've also, a lot of OICA contracts are also every 2, so I don't know if that's something that might be on, there's lots to discuss, and we could budget for that a little bit better, but to add a significant increase to this year's budget was not really on the table. And so it's something we should plan for better next time.
I think it's the right way to go. I have, in my history in Coos Bay, I have been a negotiator for the teachers. I have also been on the team for the school district. The worst experience in my life was one of those years when I was on the district's team and we went to a strike. And some of the feelings that held over from that lasted for the rest of some people's lives. So I know how nasty it can get and bad and personal it gets for people. So, and in those situations, when you have one person who's an administrator, another person who's a staff member, it was hard on those relationships. It's just difficult. And I think that the more we can be the arbitrators in the back as opposed to the ones face to face, the more likely you will be to not have those kind of long lasting hard feelings that can happen. So I think it's a kind of move to make. It'll be interesting though, having one group negotiating directly with one group and another group going to this other. So I think we'll get a chance to see how it works.
Yeah.
That is something that we should really consider in the future. And obviously I signed up for Ron. Not.
Yeah. Kim,
I think it's just a big hardship as a board member because it is like a full-time job being at all those meetings. So I don't know that I kind of saw David the year before and I was like, how in the world do you have that much time to be able to spend hours in these meetings? And so as a volunteer board member, you know, it's a lot to do. And then I'm not a very good poker player. So we go in there and discuss things, and then we come out and I'm just excited with the teachers the whole entire time. Yeah, what they said. What? So I was not good. Like my husband says, I can't go with them to buy a car or anything. So I'm over there. So I'm not, don't have me on anything. I mean, they might want me, but.
I actually think it would be good also in the respect that to have somebody facilitate that, we as a board would have to clearly state to them what our goals are.
That's right.
And sort of what our, what our expectations, what we would like to see change, what we would like to, this is what we really value and want to hold on to. And this is something that, it could come or go or be modified and that would be okay. And gives us a chance to essentially kind of sit down and work through that as an entire board rather than as, the
Just a
three
couple,
people on the
yeah.
negotiations committee along with our superintendent, business manager. Because they obviously have their priorities that they would like to see going into the contracts as well. But, that's one of our main responsibilities as board members is to approve the contracts. And, as far as the district goes, these are the big ones, right?
Right.
And so basically just forcing us to come up with, concrete, this is,
these
this
are our
language-
assumptions.
This language aligns with our goals, this doesn't, this aligns with our budget, this doesn't. And being able to express that to essentially a third party, a neutral party would be, I think, very helpful. When I'm sitting in the negotiator seat, I'm like, okay, I know this is what our superintendent thinks. I know this is what our business manager thinks. I know most of the other board members fairly well, but I don't necessarily know what's in their head and, what they would approve of or not approve of. And it makes it even more difficult doing it that way.
My only hesitation was cost. And I was really concerned that we would now be taking money that was going to go to some student project and take it away. But I was assured that we had already budgeted money because we already have to rely on an attorney to give us all those answers when you turn around to them. So the fact that we're already spending the money and it's already in the budget made me feel much more comfortable because I think it is the best practice that we don't do it.
I was going to say, the legislature changes the rules all the time. And if you aren't in the legislature, and even if you are, you may not know it, but if you aren't an attorney whose job it is, I always felt really bad for Adrian. Because you can do an unfair labor practice pretty quickly.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So having people who actually understand and know the law and the rules makes things a little less scary for them.
No, I've come close to making something.
Well, I think, honestly, that's a safe route is to, we could get ourselves in more hot water by not paying for the expertise that we need in situations where you need expertise. That's.
Last negotiations with CBEA, we spent X number of dollars. We did not have somebody at the table all of the time. we primarily went to them for review and for input, and we still had, I think it was you, Adrian, I think you were still the spokesperson, we still relied on you, but we did pay for the attorney's time to be there, and just didn't have them.
Every time we go in the caucus, it's like on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the number that I'm projecting for an attorney this time to be proactive is actually the same cost as what we spent last time.
Why didn't we have that then last time? Was it just because Adrian?
Adrian wanted to keep doing.
Oh, don't say that.
No, it had never been our practice, and it had never been the structure that we utilized.
I
And
did boldly say that this was. I was just like, they invited us to break bread with their union. And I was like, why, let's go do this, you know, but it feels, it's hard. I did do it. I just, I was just like, all right, guys. But it is hard when you guys are on separate sides as the board. And I just think it's
Well, we're on separate sides as a board, and Arnie's a former teacher, and my parents were both teachers.
And it's like, oh,
You know.
here's one of my fellow coaches and
That's
my
right.
kid's teacher, and you know, someone else I volunteer for regularly, and yeah.
Yeah,
It's stressful.
I know. Okay, so, do you need a motion to enter into a contract or
No.
anything? Okay,
No, you guys already delegated that to me. I just think it was, you made the suggestion to have a public conversation. And I would just add, Michelle wants to jump in, but part of and I know I'm saying the obvious, but I've got to say this, part of a board member's job is risk management, right? And to protect the organization. And I think David said it. When we take on something we're not comfortable with, I think we're exposing ourselves as a district. The other piece that's really important, and we're trying to get better at this, is systems, not people. People are important. They're super important, right? But we don't want to create systems that when somebody leaves us, we don't know how to move forward, right? And we're losing Adrian, who served in that role for a long time, right? We need a system when we get into negotiations, and a system that isn't emotional, because it's a business contract, and I want our teachers to be paid really well, right? But there are other things that we have to accomplish. So I think it's the right direction. Michelle?
I just wanted to add that, thank you all for being open to this idea, but I also just wanted to add that there is some board training that still is involved. When we spoke with CDR Law, the board will still be involved and trained and kind of supporting those systems that Justin's talking about. So, there's still involvement, there's still, personal investment in the process, but they will do some overall board training so that we kind of know what it's supposed to look like. So I appreciate that level of support and kind of outside perspective, but we'll need your help in that too.
perfect. Is that, you're done?
Yep.
Okay. Maureen, oh no, we're going to go back to Bree.
Anything we do to keep her here.
Yeah.
I think my children don't think I'm actually from home. Really told me when I told her that tonight, I know it's a board. Okay. So again, David, can I just tell you next slide? Oh, you have a clicker?
Yeah, it may not work. but
Is it so, okay, so do I hold it this way and this goes to the next one right here and this is backwards?
Yeah, but you should point it towards me.
Oh, okay.
It's plugged in.
Like that movie with Adam Sandler?
Yeah. You can just keep doing it. If it doesn't work, I'll just click when you point at me.
Okay, perfect. I know I have it pulled up on here because again, it's modified for me. So I'm here today on behalf of all of our attendance advocates in the district to kind of talk about attendance with the board. I know it frequently comes up in board meetings and questions. And so tonight I do have some data to share with you guys, but I'm also going over like definitions and terminology and things that you will hear because it is kind of confusing if you're not regularly in the field with attendance of hearing all these different phrases and then like what does it mean? And so hopefully we can address some of those things with you guys tonight. But first, I just want to introduce you to our attendance advocates in the school district. So earlier we had spotlighted Chad up at Marshfield, and then we also have Jimmy Keller at Marshfield Junior High School. And I should say all of our attendance advocates wear multiple hats. And so Chad, we found out that, you know, he's actually teaching. I thought he was assisting, but he's teaching the police. Mallory's not here to tell me what the class is again, but, you know, teaching the intro to policing up at the high school. And I know he also helps out with other things that are kind of in that field of classes up at Marshall. Jimmy Keller is our attendance advocate at the junior high, but he also is security at the junior high. And then Ann Rodriguez is our attendance advocate for our 3-6 schools, but she also works with all of our ELL families from preschool up through 12th grade and does a lot of translating and family outreach, and also partners with several community partners to provide services to all of our Hispanic families as well. And then there's me, and I do whole school attendance, kindergarten through 2nd grade, and try and help out where I can in preschool and destinations. But they've kind of got it this year with Carly up there, and Keela's staff is really amazing. And then I'm also our TAP family advocate. And for those of you who haven't heard, TAP stands for Tribal Attendance Promising Practices. Oh, I was like, I broke it. And that was an initiative that started in 2015 in our state. We hired our first advocate in 2016, which would be me. And here I am still in this role when it was supposed to be only a 2-year grant cycle. And now it's in the base budget at the state level to serve our American Indian and Alaska Native students and families. If you guys have questions about anything in particular that pertains to that, I'd like to maybe even come back and have Ann and I present at a different night of all the different things that we've got going on that's culturally based. But for tonight's purposes, I'd like to just kind of keep it on attendance and attendance systems and kind of keep the two separate, or I could be here all night talking with you guys. And so our first thing is just getting into definitions and terminology and understanding the difference of different metrics between chronic absenteeism, average daily attendance, and truancy. So average daily attendance is a school level measure, I can't talk, and not just at an individual student level. It also notices attendance data on any given day or days. So you can run the average daily attendance for one day, you can do it for a week or for a month, but what that's showing you is how many students are in the building in that given time period that you run that report for or that you are looking at. So you can do it by daily or week or by month, which this data is really great at like tracking, you know, how are half days impacting attendance, bad weather, holidays, maybe the calendar, you know, different things that tell you how many people are there. Another great one is illness. And so like right now, if you were to look at our average daily attendance, it's a lot lower than it was before Christmas because we've got some lovely bugs going around right now. Truancy is what was really common that we would hear about, especially when I was in school for Skippy. It's unexcused absences, and it's an emphasis with individual compliance with rules. And it usually typically would be legal and punitive or blaming with students. There used to be a fine. A citation tied to that is a Class C misdemeanor, but that has been gone away. Even though the law still has a lot of that language, the fine and citation that's associated with that law no longer exists for truancy. It does only apply now for enrollment. So if you have been dropped after 10 days of absences and you have not enrolled into another program or enrolled an ESD building or service, then that does have a misdemeanor still attached to it if you just don't enroll your children. But it only applies if your child is 6 and older and has been enrolled previously. It does not apply for like our kindergarten kids that are waiting another year to go into public school and have never enrolled. It wouldn't apply to them. And then chronic absenteeism, this is when TAP kind of came in. Oh, whoops. Sorry, I'm looking at 2 different screens on my computer too, and I thought I missed it. Chronic absenteeism is something that's newer, and that's when TAP came around, and it's looking at the individual student. So this is when you're looking at the attendance of each individual student. In chronic absenteeism, I thought I put it, I accidentally jumped ahead of my own thought process when I put the slides together, so I apologize. Chronic absenteeism has its own terminology. Regular attendance or regular attenders are students who are missing less than 10% of the school day. And so with looking at it from not a negative but a positive, it's regular attenders are attending 90% or more of the school year. And then chronic absenteeism are students that are missing 10% or more of the school year. With our calendar being 170-ish days, give or take each year, and that's 17 days. If they miss 18, they're below 90. If they miss 17, they're barely squeaking by with a 90.1. And then severe chronic absenteeism are students who are missing 20% or more of the school year. To miss 10% or more of a school year is on average about 2 days a month. Now, a big piece of it is education. My son was chronically absent in kindergarten, and that's because I had no idea about attendance until I took this job position, started doing research. And for our family, my other half, the only days off that he had working at Roseburg Forest Product was Wednesdays and Thursdays. And so Chase would frequently miss school on Thursdays so he could get some quality time with dad. And sometimes I wonder if that did some damage on how my son does in school. Yeah, he spent time with dad. He may now know how to do his own rear end, but maybe he's not so great at math. And so this right here is our average daily attendance looking at first quarter and first semester. The numbers that are on top is the first semester, because if I showed both numbers, it was too crowded for us to see. And so this is that average daily attendance that we were talking about that shows you who's in the building by quarter. And it is kind of expected to see that first quarter in September a little bit higher versus after November and you're moving into winter. It does usually take a little bit of a dip just due to illnesses. And then our attendance advocates don't really look at average daily attendance because that's a collective and we're looking at individual students. So just line up everything I have over here, you guys. And I'm a really fast talker, so if I'm talking too fast, you guys can tell me to slow down. So this is our first quarter for 7th through 12th grade, looking at chronic absenteeism. So when you're looking at this, Marshall Junior High, our regular attenders are 62.4, 60.3, and then at destinations, it's 33.3%, which I just want to let you guys know that's really good because destinations before Keela and her staff have really come in. We were lucky if we were seeing over 12% of regular attenders. And so I know it looks low when you're looking at this, but then when you're looking kind of at as a collective, they're the only school that's gone up since COVID. And then this is at the end of the first quarter or first semester. We have taken a little bit of a dip in our regular attenders, which this slideshow is linked into the agenda packet. I saw David did that, so thank you, David. So if anybody wants to look at this data, they can. And this is our first quarter attendance data for pre-K through 6th grade. I think one of the things too is when we're going through here, Millicoma does tend to be a little bit higher than our other schools when you're looking at chronic absenteeism data. And I think one of the strong points with that is Gary, who is the admin at Millicoma, he was putting attendance systems into place at the school before some other schools. And it was something that he's done in previous positions and something that he's comfortable with. And I think that kind of reflects a little bit. But otherwise, everybody's pretty on par with each other. And this is at the end of the first semester for the same grade. And so right now, it is really discouraging when we look at this because none of our schools have over 70% of regular attenders. And so,
What is this fourth one though, right next to pre-K that we can't see?
That's,
'cause
that's
it's-
Millicoma.
yeah, that's Millicoma. Yeah, I just went from west side to east side and then put the grades by each other.
Okay.
So this one's Madison, east side, Sunset, and Millicoma,
Okay.
and then pre-K. And I think one of the biggest changes is too, is right before COVID, and I know it seems like it happened a really long time ago, but there's a lot that went on during that time, right? With like family engagement and just like community trust education on like when to even send your kids to school and when to keep home. And so there's all these different components that really fall into play, but the caseloads are a lot higher. And so one of the nice things is that this year with having like attendance being one of our superintendent's goals and having some sprint goals putting into place is, and how Dr. Ainsworth was talking about systems and not people. Our attendance advocates have really been person-driven and not systems-driven. And so with having more awareness and getting a lot of these conversations going in schools, we are putting systems into place that are not person-dependent, but systems at school. And so I was really disappointed when I was going through and doing the district data because there's been so much conversation and there's been more collaboration with teachers and classified staff and the admin and people sharing the duties of phone calls, and the advocates can kind of focus more on that tier 3. And I really thought that I was going to see like, woohoo, like a huge growth. And so while the data is disappointing, I think a great real positive out of this is that we are putting those things in. And after doing this for 8 years, attendance and chronic absenteeism is like one of the hardest measures to get to move. And like, I get super excited when it moves like 0.5% up. Before COVID hit, we were hovering around like right around 80% regular attenders, which was like a huge growth within attendance. Because I know OTE said we didn't have to turn in attendance data for that year, but I still ran it because I was curious, and now I wish I wouldn't have, because it was heartbreaking to see like how good we were doing that year. And so while it's not something great, we do have positives that have come out of that, and I think the communication and collaboration is a really big one. And then normally I don't use notes and I just talk, but tonight I have notes, you guys, because I wanted to make sure that I got a good picture for you guys to look at what some of the conversations that we've been having at different levels. And so these are some of the root causes of chronic absenteeism. One of the things that they share out with attendance works is this root causes of chronic absenteeism with the barriers of being can't go, won't go, don't go, and disengagement. And so those are like surface. And then we kind of looked into it a little bit deeper. And so I have them bullet pointed here and kind of a summary. So if you guys want to look back at it, but I'm going to go ahead and read you guys a little bit more of a full summary. Okay. So root cause number 1, health related causes. So health-related causes of absenteeism include physical illness, such as common colds, chronic conditions or injuries, as well as mental health challenges like anxiety, depression, and stress. These issues may become worse by being limited access to healthcare, leaving many students without the necessary treatment to address their physical and emotional needs. Assisting families in understanding when to keep students home and when to send to school is just as vital as connecting them to the school nurse for more reoccurring and chronic issues, as well as connecting to community programs and resources. And in this moment, I would also like to kind of highlight Eastside and how they utilize their school nurse. Nurse Emily communicates with the advocates because she's at Millicoma and Eastside. And so if there is communication issues with a parent or she can't get a hold of them, she'll contact us to help make that connection. And vice versa. If we have connected with the family and they've expressed some health concerns, in no way, shapes, or meaning, like no form, am I a doctor or a nurse, or should I be giving any kind of medical advice? So I'm going to make sure that I connect that parent to our school nurse. And then that way that can be handled by somebody who can actually help find like resources and solutions to a possible barrier for that family. But with the flu going around right now, students are out for about 5 days, and that is just I'm so sorry you guys are sick. Please let me know if you need anything and feel better soon. And so with root cause number 2, challenges significantly contribute to student absenteeism. Poverty can prevent access to basic needs like food, clothing, school supplies, and while transportation issues and unstable housing can make attending school consistently difficult. Older students may also miss school to take on work obligations and support their families financially. Also limited community capacity for existing support programs. And so we are really lucky because we have the ARC for at-risk kids, but we also have families who reach economic hardships that don't necessarily fall into that Title I category, and they need support. Maybe you're a single parent and your car battery died, but you don't have any support systems in here, like within driving distance, you know, and you don't have family who live here or whatever. We can go and jump your car. We've had to do that before. And I've even had to do it for my own sister in the morning before to go and jump her car, and I should probably buy her jumper cables. But these are some of the smaller things that we don't think about that can actually have big impacts for families, is if you don't have reliable transportation or you don't have a support system that you can lean on, then the school, you know, the advocates, we can either maybe connect you to different support systems in place in the community. Maybe you really like to do craft activities, so we can let you know what the library schedule is for adult craft nights or family craft nights and stuff. And so kind of creating a network out there that we can plug people into when they need things is really important. And then also just family and home environment and awareness. Supportive family and home environment play a vital role in consistent school attendance. However, students facing challenges such as caregiving responsibilities, family transitions like divorce or relocation, or other disruptions may need additional encouragement and resources to maintain regular attendance. Engaging parents to see the value in attendance and education and fostering stable routines can help create a positive impact on students' commitment to school. Families that are doing well and feel supported have students who do well and feel supported. Also, lack of awareness or education on the impact of attendance on academics, or knowing how many days their child has missed. So a great example is something that Lillian does at Madison. She actually tracks the attendance on her intervention and recently reached out to ask, like, what can we do now? Here's the percentage of students and what they're at for how often they're actually attending intervention. And so now it's having an academic, so we can provide kind of a wrap around that family and have conversations and tie their attendance into academics, because everybody wants their children to do well. Every single person loves their children. Sometimes you just need to provide a little bit more support, and that's why it's so important for us to look at data and to analyze and to see who maybe needs some help and some extra support. And then also school-related factors that contribute to absenteeism include social issues such as bullying or difficulty with peers, where students avoid school due to fear of negative interactions. Cultural differences and a lack of social skills or stamina can make it harder for students to engage in school, leading to withdrawal. Additionally, feeling unwelcomed or not belonging can make students reluctant to attend, as they may struggle to connect with their peers or the school environment. Negative interactions with adults, whether teachers or staff, or conflicts on the playground can further discourage attendance. Disengagement from the curriculum driven by boredom or uninteresting methods can also be a factor. Students with disruptive behaviors who lack self-regulation may experience punitive consequences. I can't read tonight, I'm so sorry. Consequences such as suspensions, which can further alienate them from school. All of these factors can contribute to an environment where students feel disconnected and less motivated to attend. Because with chronic absenteeism, it does count excused, unexcused, and suspension absences. The only thing that doesn't count towards chronic absenteeism is school functions. So our athletes, our cultural events, and things like that are not being impacted negatively in their attendance, but suspensions, excused absences, and unexcused do play a part in chronic absenteeism. And then one of the fun things too is Destinations doesn't have an attendance advocate, and neither does our preschool. And so that school doesn't have an attendance advocate. But what's really great is that Destinations The staff are making personalized phone calls, and they also have student cell phone numbers, so they're also personally calling the students, letting them know that they miss them and that they would like to see them at school, and making sure that they're keeping data on if they've been contacted and why they weren't at school. And so that is one thing the secretaries and Ms. Sprague and other staff have kind of taken on at Destinations, since they don't have an advocate. Also with the parent, just kind of education and awareness, Sunset's been doing a really great job at making sure that's plugged into their newsletters on attendance awareness, and you can't miss more than 2 days a month and that kind of stuff, to make sure parents are receiving that education. And they've been having an attendance spotlight in their newsletter all year. Also just to have fun and engaging things at school. Madison recently participated in Global Play Day, and it was really awesome if you could have been in the building during that time, because kids get to go from classroom to classroom and they get to pick what station they want to do. And they had kids riding those trikes in the front of the office, and then they had a popcorn station, which thank you to your custodians at Madison for cleaning that one up, because there's popcorn everywhere. But it was great because there's no behaviors and kids are getting to interact with each other and choose kind of what they want to do. And my daughter has a hard time going to school, and that day I was joking with her, she wanted to stay home, and I thought for sure she would say yes. And she's like, no, I can't. It's Global Play Day. And so I think we need to remember that while we have a lot of things and objectives and goals that we want to reach, we are working with children, and it's got to be fun too. Just another couple of highlights on some of our schools. I know I had mentioned Millicoma earlier, and so some of the things that they do just to bring attendance awareness into the school is they always make sure attendance is being entered into Synergy by 8:30, which most of our schools all have that exact same time and goal, but they have made it a personal goal to make sure every teacher is taking attendance by that time this year. And then any changes after that is done by the secretaries, which the same at all of our schools. They also have signs, so if everybody's in a classroom, they put a sign that says perfect attendance outside the door, and Mr. Roberts comes by with a bag of Jolly Ranchers and tells them great job at being at school, or just other positive things to say to the kids. They get pretty excited about those Jolly Ranchers, which we're seeing a theme. Attendance and candy apparently goes hand in hand. And they also do a weekly Friday drawing during announcements for 2 kids from each grade level who have perfect attendance for that week, and they get a prize. And they also do monthly drawings for kids with perfect or improved attendance and recognize them at their monthly assembly. And they've also started to use their behavior EA, his name is Andre, to meet, he's a meeting with the kids who are close to being regular attenders and in hopes of helping them move up to above 90%. So he's meeting with the students and setting goals with the students, while Ann Rodriguez, the attendance advocate there, is then calling the families once Andre speaks to the child, just so there's communication with both sides, so they know what's happening and what's being said to their child, and making sure that those goals that the child is setting is also shared with the families. And then at Marshall Junior High, they do great with admin communication in collaboration with their school counselor, and they have meetings with their administrator, secretaries, their school counselor, as well as their attendance advocate more frequently than we do at K6. And then at Marshfield, we already had talked about Chad with his personalized incentives and relationships with the students. And then the attendance team there does a weekly huddle. So their attendance office has weekly meetings to see who are they going to target, and then who's going to be calling and who's doing what at school. And then in preschool, the teachers have been encouraged in building relationships early with families and students, including conversations about the importance of creating healthy habits around attendance that will then carry over into their K-12 career and beyond. Attendance is something that, if your kid's in kindergarten, you would think, while they're in kindergarten, it's okay if they miss today, but it's actually the foundation. And when you're building a house, you would make sure that your foundation is very strong, or the walls are going to tumble in. And attendance is one of the things that can really predict success. And if we want to get our kids enrolled, enlisted, or employed, we also need to make sure that we're looking at attendance in a positive and proactive way with families too. And then these are some of the systems that we're putting into place at a district level. We're participating in an attendance collaborative with the South Coast ESD. And when I say we, I'm talking about our attendance advocate and then Corey Ainsworth, as well as our student support services director. Is that? I can't remember your long title, but she's there with us. And then also some of the systems being put into place, we're kind of borrowing from TAP because it's a state initiative. I'm really lucky and I get professional development for free through my program. And so kind of plugging in some of those best practices and things that we've learned through lots of mistakes throughout the years on what works and what doesn't. And then in our building levels, we're building attendance teams. So the junior high and high school naturally already have that with how they're kind of set up. And now we're making sure that we're really implementing them in the K-6 level and making sure that they're stronger and not just a person, but an actual system. So like what already exists? How can we plug that in so we're not creating like another job for somebody, but like what's already there and how can we make it easier, not just for staff, but also making sure that families aren't falling through their cracks. And then attendance advocates, just personalized outreach and student family engagement. Our days are never the same. Sometimes we start a day with a phone call and we're picking up a student. Sometimes we have a parent who calls us who's really upset because there's a lot going on in their life, and we talk to them on the phone for an hour and a half. Or maybe we're helping a single family take care of lice in their home, or maybe we're referring to different community resources. Maybe I show up to your school and I rile your entire classroom up because I think it's kind of funny sometimes. So all of us have such a wide scope of what we do, and we all wear more than one hat. And so there's not exactly one role or something that you could lay out like this is what an attendance advocate does every day, because it's just kind of making sure that we're serving not just the student, but the whole family, especially at the K-6 level, because kindergartners don't drive themselves to school. So does anybody have any questions or anything we want to add?
Kim, questions? Kevin?
Thank you very much.
He's standing, he got his thing on his watch, it says it's time to stand.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Bree.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was closing out yours.
Okay, now we're on to you, Marina.
Now it's me. Are my things going to be up there?
Do you want them to be?
No, no. You all have them. I can't read up there anyway.
It's all right there.
Mhm. So the general fund is looking wonderful. I was pretty cautious when budgeting since it was my first year. So I was maybe a little generous with my allocations in the instruction and support services function because there just are so many unknowns when it's your first year building a budget. And so we currently have, we've currently year-to-date spent 10.2 million in instruction and nearly 10 million in support services. We're anticipating, based on projections and historical trends, we're anticipating spending approximately 21.5 million in instruction and almost 18 in support services. Well under the allocations that were budgeted. I will keep an eye on that. I don't anticipate needing to do a supplemental budget in the general fund. This is a pretty secure fund. We have the same relative expenses. We did anticipate a large increase to our salary and benefits costs this year because of moving all of our staff over from ESSER when ESSER was closed. And so that is the reason that we increased that allocation so significantly. We did set aside a board designated contingency. I think was 5% based on the board's policy. So that's what you see as the 3 million that we anticipate forecasting. We set that aside so if we did need to do a supplemental budget, we could rearrange that allocation. And we also set aside the I believe our board policy says a 2.5 to 4% ending fund balance. So that is set aside. That's why it's not on here, but we did anticipate for that in our budget. So general fund is looking great. Does anyone have any questions on the general fund? Okay. On to special revenue funds. This one you'll see in the far right column, the unfavorable variance in instruction and support services that we're projecting. This is, again, I say this every year, because of ESSER, it overinflated our anticipated projections for the year. We only spend our grant allocations. However, OE has put out a requirement that you spend all of your current year allocation in the current year. So we have all of last year's carryover that we had to spend this year, as well as this year's carryover. So we will need to do a supplemental budget in March. Twofold: one, to increase our allocations so we can spend all of our grant dollars, specifically SIA, Measure 98, and all of our titles. We want to spend them, but we have to spend them before June 30th, which is a new rule change. So we will increase our allocation in March for local board approval and adoption of supplemental budget. But it's looking great because you can only spend the grant dollars you have. So we're not going to do anything crazy in there. Debt service is looking wonderful. We see there's an unfavorable variance in the far right column of local sources. These are our property taxes. We get a huge influx of property taxes in November, and then we don't get very many again until March. And so it's projecting that we're going to not receive as much property taxes as I had anticipated. We will receive them. We will receive them in March. And so when you see April's forecast, it will be probably on par. We anticipate receiving about 94% of the property taxes that we levy during the budget cycle. So that's on track. And if we don't get enough in this fund, we will move some of the general fund property taxes into here to make our debt service payments.
Just, could you comment, just a quick footnote on federal sources?
Yeah.
So if you look at federal sources in that first box, the bottom, just the conversation, I don't want to get too much in a rabbit hole, but the national conversation about federal funds.
Yeah.
Just so you would have some context on what that impact would be to us locally. So I don't know if Marina wants to add anything.
Well, this one is just as a side note, a little overinflated because ESSER 3 is a federal fund and a federal source. And so we will not have the significance of a drop. We also won't have that significant of a blue forecasted line, but it is all of our title funds. It's our Title I, our Title II, our Title IV, our federal school improvement grant that we receive annually, as well as our IDEA special education funding. I would estimate that those funds alone is probably between $2.5 and $3 million that we receive from federal grants that we are uncertain if those will continue. We may not know until closer to budget time. What is in those grants are 95% position. So we pay for almost all of our EAs in the classrooms out of Title I and SIA dollars. We can't supplement them in the general fund. There will need to be adjustments if we don't receive those moving forward. Also, we've been receiving about $815,000 annually for IDEA funds, purely set aside for special education. That's a large chunk of our education funding for that special group that does require so many additional costs, but we are one required and we want to support them in whatever way we can. To not have that significant fund every year that we can count on it's scary as we're trying to build programs and build best systems for our students who need it potentially the most. It's scary to not have that we can count on. That's been a consistent funding source. I might not know until much closer to budget. It's just one more crystal ball that we will be throwing in the 25-26 fiscal year budget.
I would assume though that pretty much every district is in a similar position counting on federal funds to supplement a lot of those special ed programs and the title programs. So if this impacts us, it's gonna impact pretty much every other district, probably nationwide, I would assume. I assume.
Yeah, I mean, on larger scale, schools that have a higher free and reduced population, special education population. But yeah, everybody will be impacted to a certain degree. Us locally, it'll have an educational impact because their EAs work closely with those students in a lot of one-on-one environment. But being honest, it'll have a local impact to our economy, right? So I don't want to get political about this, but I think some awareness is important as you guys hear what would be the immediate impact here. It would be a lot of our EAs.
And additionally, free and reduced lunch. And we are a fully free lunch and breakfast district, and that would be an immediate change. One that our families might not be able to, no, not at all. And that's, I mean, millions of dollars a year just for that service. So thanks, Justin.
Yep, just roll.
On to capital projects. So, the reason you did not get a supplemental budget this month is because I wanted Dr. Ainsworth to be able to present the district office moves. This is a cost that we have been anticipating. As I've mentioned a few times, we have additional capital fund dollars that have been transferred over to our capital projects funds. We can't move back to the general fund, and we have really been considering how best we put those to use because it was offset by ESSER dollars, and so we had a larger beginning fund balance than anticipated. We do believe that the district office move is a good use of those funds because it allows us to build on our programs that you guys have designated as a priority. We have set theoretical budgets for that. We are looking at about a $250,000 cost to upgrade the classrooms, to move the districts, to increase electricity, potentially signage out front for the district office so that it maybe doesn't look as rough. And then we're hoping to be able to have some funds remaining to put into Milner Crest and make it look more like a school. So you will see in the March budget, supplemental budget, increased allocations in this capital projects fund. We're not anticipating doing any other capital projects this fall right away, but we want to get these ones done before the fiscal year ends. We want to get these moved so that then destinations teachers are not moving classrooms for the 5th time during the summer. We want to give them plenty of time to transition and expand into Milner Crest. And so we are looking to do that before the budget cycle begins on July 1. So you will see that next month. Yes, Kim?
Sunset roof. Was that already done?
So that is one of the other projects that are ongoing. Our maintenance department believes that the repairs that were done over the summer, they were successful. There are not any leaks in the areas that they have repaired, and the cost for the sunset roof is significant. So we are anticipating like $2 to $2.5 million. Not something we can do this summer, but we can continue to build up the funds for that. And we believe that the fix, I can't speak to what that fix was, but I know that our maintenance man, Barry Berge, was on the sunset roof a lot this summer patching, and it's helped. So they're going to get the rest of the spots this summer, and that should buy us another year to a year and a half to budget for. That's what the maintenance department feels comfortable saying they could make it that long and allow us to build up the funds. The $250,000 for district office move is something we can do now to allow other programs to expand where we still couldn't do the sunset roof this summer with funds available.
So I'm through the chair. I'm glad you brought up sunset. So the conversations about, because you can't do everything, right? But priorities in terms of capital expenses or budget are this building, Milner Crest. The other one that needs to become a priority, in my opinion, is Sunset. Sunset needs some TLC, needs some paint, needs some aesthetics, needs a little love. So we're talking about the library there. And then, we would reprioritize after those three things are done. But to me, it's this building, it's Milner, it's Sunset. It's time to put some energy and resources into that building.
And we're currently working on those quotes for updating the lighting and the paint at Sunset. And hopefully should be able to be including the supplemental budget allocations so that we can start that work. They talked about pulling out some lockers over spring break, some painting on weekends, things that we can do now while we have the bodies and they're not trying to do a bunch of things over the summer. This is a little bit of a slower time, so this is something that we can theoretically start working on right away. Same for the district office. Keep those maintenance hands busy. Any other questions on capital projects or any of the other fund reports? Okay, I'll move on to enrollments. Good news, guys. I kind of doom and gloomed that second semester we lose a ton of enrollment. Off the top, it does not look like that. We stayed pretty consistent. We actually increased 4. 2 of them were at Lighthouse in their preschool, so that doesn't actually count for our ADM, but it does count as a number on this little list, and I'm going to take it as a win.
Why does it not count?
Because it is not ADM that we actually are funded on.
Lighthouse is on its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
But it is a good number. They are potential students in our district, so they might not come to us for K-8, but they will make it here for high school. You'll see the online drop or increase 9 enrollments between first and second semester, so that's great. More bodies for alt ed. Eastside is increased 4. Madison has increased 2. Mellicoma increased 3. There was a little bit, a 9 enrollment drop at Sunset. 4 additional kids at the junior high. And then you'll see the high school had a little bit of a drop of 9, which is not significant and totally anticipated. I do want to admit that my numbers may have been 8 inflated in the past. I had to get down to some weeds this month. You'll see there's a line for 8th graders at Marshfield. Normally it's like 1 or 2. So not a big deal in my grade. They go to Marshfield. When I pulled the report because of Dr. Ainsworth's suggestion and push to get more kids enrolled at the high school, that number is now increased to 41. And I was like, I'm going to check that before I put it on the report. Those kids are already accounted for in the junior high numbers. But that means that we have 41 kids that are in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that are now taking classes at the high school when there had previously been 6, a handful. So that's great news. Those are kids that have been hearing all year. Just because you're in 6th grade doesn't mean you're not taking Algebra 1 if you're ready for it. 7th, they're taking it. 41 is a great number. So the other significant changes are really destinations increased 4 for this semester. That's pretty standard. They have a cap of 50, and so they always start the semesters up at 50 because they have a wait list. Our enrollment looks good. I anticipate not seeing another significant decrease. Typically, if they start semester 2 with us, we don't typically leave for another school in the middle of the year. So good news on that one. And lastly, after speaking with Dr. Ainsworth, we felt it best to bring to you that we have received a formal request from our transportation company per student that they would like to begin discussions of an early renewal of our contract. Our contract is set to expire in June of 2026. So we have a full another fiscal year, but they'd like to start speaking about that now, probably to renew this summer.
Did we do that last summer?
We did not. It was brought to our request.
Okay, they asked last summer.
They did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm more than happy to give you my input on that if you would like it, or you guys can let me know if you'd like us to enter this.
I'm all in favor of starting it early if they'll continue our contract at the same price
Okay.
and no increase, but we'll extend their term if they want.
Yeah.
Efficiency.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm not sure that's their intention.
Either, but that would be my intention.
So in full transparency, they had a significant increase to their staff costs in their last contract, and they have been asking for an early renewal conversation since that happened. I am always of the opinion that we should go out for an RFP when it's something this large, rather than just an early renewal.
Yes.
But I am happy to do whatever the board directs me to do and begin whatever conversations or work you'd like us to do.
Is there a detriment to us in not agreeing to do it early?
No, we have a contract.
Right.
Yeah. We're just asking us. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Cost of staff go up. Yeah.
I hear that they have a full complement of drivers now.
I have not heard of any issues this year. Have you guys?
I have heard very few,
Yeah.
although our neighbor to the north might not feel the same way. So I think, I would say that whatever they're doing seems to be effective in being able to deliver service.
I would agree.
So,
We actually were able to add buses this year. We now have separate preschool buses, so those kids are not on the bus with K-8 students, and they're on for a much shorter time. And are also, I think they were probably 5 harnessed before, but now it's just whole bus.
I feel a little bit mixed, just like, I understand wanting to hold the line. We have a contract, but you also get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And I know that labor costs, fuel costs have not been neutral. So, if we try to hold the line, we may get a lesser service as a result, potentially too. So, I mean, like I said, if it's something we should maybe just be open to hearing them, if nothing else.
Marina, did you budget for this?
For early renewal and an increase to our contracted transportation costs, I did not.
That's what
But that would be an increased cost to next year's budget. It would not be a current year cost. It would be for next
Right.
year. I believe the current contract is a 2 to 3% increase next year. So we'll budget for that until a different contract is signed.
And I had a question for you.
Yeah.
The busing, is that through federal funds?
It's not.
Like when you get paid back, it's not?
The reimbursement is state grant.
Okay.
It's only reimbursed at like
70% for academic purposes.
That might not change.
I'm not anticipating that
Hopefully.
changing. I'm not anticipating that, but
I think through the chair, I just want to go on record, and I'm glad, Maria, it's your decision. You're asking the right questions. I do want to go on the record, though, that their service, since I've been here, I've been extremely impressed with First Student. Becky and her team are professionals, they're responsive, they're community oriented, and then at their management level, Andrew Good and his team, I've been really impressed with them. I'm not advocating, I just want to be clear that I've been impressed with their service. I think they do a really good job, and you're right, and historically, bus companies have had a hard time with staffing, and that doesn't seem to be a challenge with them.
Right.
Yeah.
I know, I've spent about 25 hours on school buses this year, so.
It's a hard job. It's a hard job.
It is a hard job. Yeah.
Running a classroom with your back to the kids.
It is, as recently as this last weekend, heading out to Roseburg and back. I can say their driver that we had was very professional and courteous, shows up right on time at 6 a.m. for us to get going. Yeah, especially during the weather, we had to take an alternate route through the snow and the Camas area there. But they did a really good job with that.
Becky has a good team.
yeah, they're great. I am not trying to diminish that at all. The financial piece of me goes, we got a contract, and maybe we don't have to increase it next year, but I will happily engage in whatever conversation you'd like me to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we should at least find out what
they need.
and whether or not, I guess it's a judgment call as to whether or not we think maybe we could get a smaller increase if we do it this year as opposed to waiting till next year and be hit with a even larger increase.
Yeah, we could set up a meeting. I don't know if somebody from the board would like to join us, but Justin and I can definitely meet with our, we'll do that. Thank you. That's all for me.
Any questions? More questions for Marina? Okay. We're on to policy.
All right. Wait for
You
this
know,
all
that
night.
exciting part of our,
We should move this up the agenda so we can get to the.
yes, we can get to it quick.
You, Cody, you stayed here all night.
You know you can.
Yeah, we told them that.
Okay.
All right, I am gonna move through these pretty quickly because we're
Okay.
past 8 o'clock and I know how things work when we start burning midnight oil around here. First policy, GCBDA / GDBDA AR, it's a family and medical leave. That was recently, it's a recent program from the state, and so we needed some policy to help manage that. We did work on this with Michelle Barton. So she provided some great advice on what our current practices are, what we're capable of doing, what would be in the best interest. So we worked on that with Michelle and the policy committee. Minimal, it's their boilerplate policy, and we just made some selective language, just nothing out of the ordinary. Next one is GCBDC, GDBDC, domestic violence, harassment, sexual assault, bias, or stalking leave, safe leave. Again, this is their standard. The reason you'll see all these markouts is they had a previous version that we had never adopted. So when they send this out, they make changes to their policy to show what they've changed. But nothing is changing for us because we haven't adopted this yet. So this will be the first time we're adopting it. And as always, anything that I highlighted in yellow was a selection that the policy committee chose. And then we have the AR associated with that. That's the next one, page 90 and 91. Some more paid family and medical leave insurance. That's on page 92. This is the AR. Same kind of thing. We had gotten these policies initially, I want to say April of 2024, but we had strategically not adopted them at that point because we knew they were going to change and change and change. And now we feel like they've settled to a degree where we need to adopt them. And we'll likely change them again next month, but it won't be every other week. So that's why you'll see these on here now. The next one is policy JFEAR, individualized plan for pregnant and or parenting students. Minimal changes there. We did change the word from termination to withdrawal from program. We thought that was a better word choice for the policy's content. And that's it for me. Any questions?
No.
And I will say, I had intended to put it in the board post on Friday, and I realized as I looked at it this morning that it did not make it on there. We did receive back our policy analysis from OSBA. So I will send you guys all an email this week and with the analysis and kind of what my strategic battle plan for tackling those would be. And then we can, discuss from there. And yeah, that's all I have for policy.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, we're up to public input. Did we have anyone sign up for?
We did not.
Should I see if that guy in the bathtub is part of it?
I don't know why, because he's been here the whole time.
Yeah, I can go check the bathroom.
Okay. Take a little break. There's been a gentleman here the whole time.
thinking about running for the school board.
Could be.
And it could be, but I mean, I just want to know if you
Sorry,
want.
but
Just to see you.
I'm just kidding.
Could be though.
Yes, that's what I would do. Okay. Look at that, you already have a little-
It could be concerning.
Are we just stretching or?
Oh, no. I didn't know if you were raising.
Public comment?
We need to have a scheduled stretch break.
Okay, okay, well, I mean, he's been here and he had a chance to sign up, so I'm going to assume that he did. My choice. So let us move on to Superintendent Peterson, who has been very nice.
Very good.
Very good.
I have two duties.
Yeah.
Thank you, Superintendent Hansberry, the member of the board. My name is Paul Peterson. I'm the superintendent at South Coast ESD. And on behalf of the board of directors for the South Coast ESD, I also want to say thank you for inviting me to join you this evening. I'm here to provide a brief description of the local service plan process and answer your questions about the local service plan, which is on your board agenda tonight. So overview, every year, the local service plan, or the LSP, gets reviewed and approved by the regional superintendents, then the ESD board, and then the boards of each of 10 school districts within South Coast's ESD's service area, which ranges from Reedsport in the north to Richmond to the south. The local service plan on your agenda tonight is unchanged from the LSP you approved last year. This plan was reviewed by the area's 10 school district superintendents this fall, and they voted to approve the plan on November 21st. The South Coast ESD Board of Directors also unanimously voted to approve this plan at their December 10th meeting. This LSP is designed to provide the maximum flexibility to each district in how they want to use their ESD resolution dollars, that each district chooses from a menu of services what they need from the ESD. We call those Tier 2 services. Altogether, Tier 2 services comprise about 95% of ESD's resolution dollars, with just about 5% in Tier 1, what we sometimes call core services that benefit all 10 districts. Those Tier 1 services include homeschool registration, audiology testing, birth to 3 evaluations, and the Safe Schools program. South Coast ESD is a project partner with Coos Bay School District to help deliver high-quality programs and services for students in a cost-effective manner, and I'm happy to address, try to answer any questions you might have. And, before that, I have to give a shout out. We joined the chorus tonight and give a shout out to Kayla. We are in the process of hiring some new special education directors for the South Coast ESD, and she was a super big help to me in screening campus. So thanks very much.
I thought you were gonna say you'd hire her. All right, so where's going to be a HTTP? The transition programs.
Let's see, so YTP has had a interesting change in funding. The grant that used to support that has now gone away. The state changed that to a reimbursement model. So we will be applying to get back into that reimbursement model next year. So we won't know about that program, so probably over November.
So were families in that program notified?
We kept the program going intact this year.
Oh, you did, so
Oh,
it's still going?
Oh, yeah. Well, for now, yeah, it's absolutely going. Districts, there's about 4 or 5 districts now in that consortium, and subsidizing a little bit of ESD dollars to keep it afloat for the district. Yeah, it's been a challenging change in the program, but it's now a reimbursement model. But we're gonna jump back into that revenue stream growth in the fall. Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's an important program.
Yes.
Were you done?
I'm done. I'm here to answer questions.
Are there any other questions?
I guess, do we have to vote on that?
Yes.
We have to vote on the resolution.
Yes.
Is there a resolution number for that? Usually we do. I didn't see it in
Yeah. Right. So,
2025-001.
All right, Adrian, just made a motion, I heard. What?
no, that's the same, usually there's a resolution before it. Yeah, it says the resolution. Don't see it.
I did not know this required a resolution, so I did not write it. So you
I
will not
don't
find-
think it requires a specific resolution. So seeing as the local service plan, as you say, is unchanged from last year, then I move we approve the local service plan identical to that of last year. It's presented by Superintendent Peterson.
I'll second that.
My only discussion is, our superintendent happy with this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The one thing I was gonna ask Superintendent Peterson, could you give them a little bit of background on how decisions are made at the superintendent level in terms of trying to come to some sort of consensus on needs?
Yeah,
And the needs within the county, right?
yeah. Right, not to say herding cats, but I can't avoid it. Every district has unique needs, and we work really hard to help each district meet the objectives that they have. In my perfect world, we would all agree on these 4 or 5 services that everybody's going to get. Even if it comes down to things like attendance and how we're going to help districts with attendance, there's variation, and we try to respect how each district is working on every one of those. There are variations in how some districts even approach special education. And so we try to work within the guardrails of each school district, but also help everybody stay compliant with law. So there are a few things that everybody just, like homeschool registration, that's pretty easy, right? So it's pretty easy to agree on. But even things like school safety and prevention systems, there's variation in that, in how each district wants to approach that. So, and I mentioned that was specifically because I pitched about a year ago to try and move some of that into tier 1, and I couldn't get all 10 districts to agree on that, which I thought if I had a good shot at anything, getting everybody to agree on was that everybody could agree on that. But again, we just try to honor the local context for every district, and there is quite significant difference between Coops Bay and North Bend, even though we're just a couple miles away. And certainly a great difference with Powers and Queens Harbor and Gold Keel, Gold Point, and the rest of it. So yeah, we work hard into that. Our system, our local service plan that provides that flexibility for the districts is really hard on the ESD because it's a built-in volatility for us every year. But as a school district, if I'm sitting in Dr. Ainsworth's chair, I really like that flexibility to be able to meet my needs that are changing on a year-to-year basis. So it's a good system, especially for the schools. But we do have conversation at the superintendent's level about, what are the things that we all are working on. And in the last couple of years, we've had some big initiatives coming out of the Department of Education that have caused us to all have some common objectives, and so we work on those as a region too. Like the attendance works you heard about is something that is supported by the ESD, not necessarily resolution dollars, but it's other funds coming from resources at the state level. So we get to work on those kind of projects. I guess that's about it. And then when it comes to some of our tier 2 services, we try to stay consistent and fair with everybody, and still yet try and meet individual needs of each district. So it's a menu system that works well. Does have some volatility for the ESD, but keeps us sharp.
And I think in one of those areas of, I don't know, there's still a discussion, I think, right, that are the SLC classrooms about what to do with those. I know.
Life skills.
Life skills.
Yeah. So lots of discourse and discussion about life skills.
Yep.
I had a question, but I don't know if it's for you or for Marina.
if funding stops from the federal, how does that work with this in a contract and what's going on?
This is state school funded,
Okay.
so essentially, state school fund is separated out about 94% goes to school districts and the other 6% goes to ESDs. The ESDs are required to distribute 90% of what they receive to their districts. So we get our portion and then we get our portion of their 90% of the portion.
Member,
That's state funded.
Member Dubasar, my thoughts are if we lose federal funds, ESD will absorb all of the federal funds. Take it on for us.
We'll just make it.
I'm joking.
That's not gonna happen.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Well, I'll just weigh in a little bit. This is a fascinating moment we're in right now. And I'll speak to special education funding on the state side. I've been in Oregon in a district level, superintendent district level position now for over 20 years. And this year, right now, I am seeing more than I ever have advocacy for special education. It is actually top of the priority list. I mean, on the top 3 special education funding for all the major advocacy groups. Oregon School Boards Association, Confederation of School Administrators, OEA, and a whole bunch of nonprofits are all gathered really in unison support of this need for more special education funding. Everything from raising the cap to getting more money directed to early intervention and early childhood special education, getting more money to low incidence regional assistance services. All of that is really inspiring. I have never seen it like this. It's awesome. And then you turn the page and you see what's happening at the federal level. And I guess I'm going to choose right now to deliberately put on my rose-colored glasses and say I don't really think special education funding is going to get hit hard. I don't see it happening. There is too much case law at the Supreme Court level, protect the special education, that I just don't see it. I don't see the funding dropping out on that. Maybe I'll be wrong, but right now I got my rose-colored glasses on, and when we've been at this point in our national politics, people start talking about deconstructing the federal education department. The usual line of dialogue goes along. Well, okay, we'll just put it over here in this department. We'll put this over here in this department. Doesn't go away. It just goes into different departments. So, like IDEA funding, that's not going anywhere. That's my crystal ball.
I don't have rose-colored glasses yet, so
You're a one, so.
sorry.
So they also, the
Some
high
things that have
cost
already been
disabilities, there's a lot of talk about giving them more money.
Absolutely, high cost disability, yeah, and those are like 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, they're 2, 3, 4, and 5. Because number 1 on the advocacy list that I'm seeing is let's make sure that we protect that $11.36 billion funding level that the governor has proposed. Because we've never been that close to the quality ed model. So that's priority number 1, to protect that funding level, and then right after that is all the special education. So that's really encouraging, and it's
So on this motion we're making, that include Curry and
yes,
Western Douglas?
yes,
Okay, so we're still in all
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, any further discussion? Take a vote. Kim?
Aye.
Arnie?
Aye.
Kevin? Adrian?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
And I vote aye also.
Thank you for your support.
Sitting through this.
My pleasure. Really enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you. Okay, we have a leave of absence request from Ashley Caballero.
But yet,
About yet.
who's online with us?
Is she? Ashley, would you like to address us on your leave of absence?
Otherwise, we do have the letter that you wrote in front of us.
Yeah.
No. Yes. No. Okay, we have the letter in front of us. Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve that request?
To me, just.
I'm sorry.
To me, as a board member, I guess I just want to make sure this to me is an administration question. And if you guys this is in the district's interest, you guys know that better than I do. I would try and support what that would be. Usually the district says, yes, this is a valuable teacher, and yes, we would love to have them back in a year. That you're nodding, I'm assuming that's the
Yes,
case.
absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
She's highly valuable and
Yes.
one of our, I believe, Ashley, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of our huge advocates and supporters of our AVID systems. She attends all of the trainings and I think is a department chair for that, I believe. We're gonna go with yes.
Yeah,
On that
Ashley
one.
wears a lot of.
She wears a lot of
I
hats.
got it.
I was doing training, there's a synergy stuff.
Yeah.
Synergy data.
classes.
Yeah.
she's
Avid.
Oh, yeah,
PLCs.
her mic's not working. Yeah, she's avid and she teaches quite a bit of things. She's highly involved.
Well, she was highly involved in we spotlighted the charity, and she's highly involved in that.
Yeah.
If there's something happening in Marshfield, Ashley is somehow connected to it.
Well, then maybe we shouldn't let her.
She's only got 1 year.
Yeah.
1 year.
Okay.
She's a great asset to the
Well,
district.
I move that we approve Ashley Caliero's
I'll second
request for
that.
leave of absence.
Okay. It's been moved in second. Is there any objection? Okay, we'll adopt this leave of absence request and approve it by acclamation. Moving on. Board member highlights. Anybody have anything?
I brought my family to the emergency preparedness meeting and we were
It's you.
yeah. For the whole back row, and I couldn't keep my husband and daughter from, he does not know how to whisper, so he has to do it with volume. People were moving away from us, I was so embarrassed. But it was very informative, and we were glad we went. I'm glad there's gonna be more. I feel like it's good information to get out there. And then, got a tour of Milcoma today, and that was fun. I got a jersey from 1982. So I'm gonna give that to my grandson. It's so cute. And then I've got to attend the tea party this afternoon. And see Dr. Ainsworth wear a little brown. Have some big pictures. I eat with all the kindergartners. They got apple juice and little cheesecakes, strawberries. It's adorable. It's really nice and fun.
Who put that on? Who organized that?
East side.
Kindergarten teachers.
Yep,
Yeah.
all the
That's
kindergarten
nice.
teachers and the staff and the PTO.
Well, that's wonderful. Artie?
So met yesterday, I guess what it was for, with our two principals over on the east side. They are both in leadership in the COSA organization and are anticipating going to the legislature and going to Washington DC to lobby the state as well as our own local stuff. And they wanted me to talk about what it was like and who they should talk to. They have a list of legislators, all of them I knew pretty well, so gave us some insights into some of those people. And I'm excited that we're doing that. Districts that don't get engaged in those things fall behind. And when you give your administrators and teachers the opportunity to get out and see other parts of the world and be involved in those things. We've had a library person going to all the state stuff for a long, long time. I think that's really important.
Yes, but remember, it started with County of Huron, who organized a school, a community bus for legislative education day after my kids' early school.
Yeah.
And that's what started mine.
But it's really important for school districts to grow and find out what's happening in other places. And I really want to encourage that. So I was really pleased with that. Another serendipitous moment for me, I was doing something up at the high school and this teacher was walking in. I said, "Oh, I haven't met you," introduced myself. And I asked her what she was teaching. And she said, "Well, the thing I'm really excited about now is I'm going to be teaching about Native American education." And I said, "That's exciting. I'm really excited about that. I have a book about the origins of the Grand Ronde drive here in Oregon. Oh, people are dancing again. And I have an extra copy. Would you like a copy?" And she said, "Sure." So a couple of days later, I dropped out of the hospital at school and gave her a copy that one so that she can read about that tribe's history, which are very interesting in our state. The kinds of things that happen to our tribes was not always positive.
Yeah.
But clearly, I'm excited that there's someone who cares and wants to do it, and I'm pleased with what I've heard with the superintendent about doing some stuff with some native.
Yes, so am I.
And the law, Senate Bill 10, which I was involved in at the legislature, makes it a requirement anyway for us. And I think if you have exciting people who want to do it and are learning, the opportunities that exist there for our kids, and to see from some of our kids to see themselves in what we're teaching is really, really important. So I am pleased that we're doing it.
Okay, yeah, I went to a junior high game right before this meeting, and so I encourage everyone to go check those games out, because it's really support them and help them run the clock and referee and whatever.
They didn't.
I'm not gonna talk about it, but they did a good job. Yeah, they tried hard. Yeah,
That's all that matters.
yeah, and then I wasn't sure, did we do the prospective policies for review, or did we skip that? Because I was gonna add one, I didn't know if I glitched on that.
No, I must have skipped that. We'll come back to it as soon as we finish this.
Okay, so this past weekend was the state qualifying tournament for the First Tech Challenge Robotics. I want to give a shout out to the high school robotics team. I know Elijah mentioned that their season was coming to a close. They actually did get an award at the end of the day. I believe it was the Judge's Choice Award, but don't quote me on that. It's for a team that kind of doesn't fit any other category. And it might be the first time that we've gotten an award during the regular season. So, and then we'll find out by tomorrow if either team gets invited to the invitational tournament in Paloma in a couple of weeks. But if not, then both of our sisters have.
I just want to say, I just continue to appreciate our focus on student learning, achievement, and the data around it. I mean, I continue to see that percolate up, you know. And I'm part of the site council at Sunset, and then that's every time. That's where the focus. See the teachers focused on that, and like we're all rowing in one direction, and that's really good to see. So it's still a little sobering when I look at the data, because frankly, there's a lot of red, and we just asked some questions, and apparently, you know, I was remembering when we had the EDCBM data, and I look at what we have now, and it's a world better.
Yeah.
But still, data, when you look at it, it doesn't tell the full picture. And so when you look at the red, the discussion we had today was that some kids are just way behind, sort of deep in the red. And so they're making progress maybe, but it doesn't necessarily show because they're so far behind. Now they're not quite as far behind, but I mean, I know that we're making progress in certain areas. When I look at the composite level, still too, there's a, you know, I feel like we're still at the beginning a little bit in these efforts. So, you know, I mean, if we keep rolling, hopefully we'll get to see some movement on those needles. But like I said, I'm glad that the discussions are all happening in a similar way. But I also think we need to continue to look realistically where we are as well. So
I've been working outside of the school for the last couple of weeks, trying to put together for Madison a project for the kindergartners with clay. So I've been working with my ceramics group to try and get people that'll come with me, that we can have the kids put handprints in clay and fire it and let them paint them and give them to their mothers for Mother's Day or something, you know. So I think I've got this almost organized. So I'm going to go over to the school and sort of talk to the principal and see if it'll fly.
Very sweet.
I like going back, the back door.
Yeah.
Okay, we did miss prospective policies for review when we went over policy updates. Did you have another one you wanted to review?
Well, kind of, it's not review because we don't even have one yet.
Oh.
I brought up at the OSBA convention about
a sample policy where board members could go to sports events and stuff like that for free. So you get a little card and you could get into those events to support the kids and support their different events. And of course, go and make a donation and whatnot. But we'd be able to attend way more if we had a card that just let us in. And so the OSBA had a sample policy and I could send it over to David on how it's set up. Because there's other school districts that are doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a great
we
idea.
could make a policy and then would be sustainable, but I mean, we could just make that decision here, and I agree. You guys donate enough of your time, right? You get paid so much money for this job. You guys, so we'll set up, you guys should have a card. My
Do
previous
you have your
district. you had-
badges?
Your badges should work. shouldn't
I'll
Well-
communicate to Casey and maybe we can get, maybe we can get a sticker on there or something that would allow.
You have to be careful, with getting anything for these jobs. So I know
Yes.
there's a deal policy you can make if
Yeah.
you want to get paid and all those kind of things, but they change. But you do have to be careful. So I would look to make sure that we do it in a way that doesn't put anybody at risk, like taking advantage of
For
being
ethics,
on the
yeah.
board. If the ethics commission talk to you about things, and we have to fill out that form.
We fill out the annual form of, essentially gifts in lieu of cash. Right.
So, in all seasons pass at the high school, because I buy them every year, it's $150. So, for your family, so it does cost something, and so I just be careful that what we do, we make sure that we don't put anybody at risk with respect to an effort.
But I also want to point out that it's a place of privilege, you get elected to positions, so I don't want us to have only people that can afford that run for these positions because they can't go to a game.
Right.
So they should be able to get in if they're in this position, and I get that. But if we're already going, saying, hey, they need a stipend, and, it could be a $500 stipend, or maybe they can get into a game for free and it doesn't cost them to go in, and if they didn't have the means, I don't want that to prevent somebody from running for.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. No, I want us to be able to do this. I just want to do it in a way
Yes.
that
That
doesn't put
doesn't,
any
yeah.
of you at risk for a violation.
Yeah, I could give them that policy and we can review it.
Yeah, if it's a state OSBA policy, they must have
It's not-
figured some way.
It's not an OSBA policy.
Oh,
It's
It's, one of the school districts, but the OSBA gave it to them.
okay,
They said, hey, this is what we're using.
right. Then I would look at it. Just
Yeah.
because
We'll take a look at it.
just
Yeah,
because
they-
it's really important to dot the i's and cross the t's so that people don't find themselves in a position.
Yeah, we do have to fill out our required paperwork
And
around.
hopefully everybody's
We
taking
do,
it.
that opens in March.
Yeah.
I checked, I was gonna put it on this one, but I want it to be fresh in your mind right when it opens. So in March, I will bring up a reminder. I'll make sure you have all the documents.
And-
I've already checked all your emails and all that and made sure the contacts are correct. So,
And also, has everybody taken, I know you took it at the OSBA meeting, but there's that requirement that you have to go on, and take a class with at least once a term. I did mine last week, so.
Got the public meeting law.
the public meeting law.
Public meeting.
I know Kevin and I did that on the 6th, because I saw you ask a question in the chat.
So did I.
Yeah, I didn't
I
see
didn't
your name
check.
on there, but
is there, Kevin had sent me a screenshot. Is there any kind of certificate that you guys? have got?
there isn't, it's just an attestation. You have to say, I attended on this date at this
But it is a
event.
screenshot. That's what they told us to do. So I have that also.
Okay, yeah, if you guys could send me that or your attestation, just so I have it on the record when someone says, did the board do this? Yes, they did. Here they are.
Yes, thank you.
I have Kim, Addie's, and Kevin's already.
Okay. I'll print it off.
Okay, is there anything else to keep us here this evening? Hearing none? This meeting is adjourned.
If I don't